What is up, everyone? Welcome to another Saga of Dice. We got a really big, we're fashionably late. It's not my fault today. Carson, can you just back me up? It's not my fault. I had to change some things.
You're That's looking... not true at all. We were just kind of bantering back and forth.
I was doing things.
I'm not going to have your back.
I was doing things.
We were literally just talking. Like, there is no IT reason why this stream started late.
That's not true.
Like, oh, it's 7:01. And then we should probably start.
You are such trash. You know that? Okay, so...
Name of the podcast.
we were going to have a guest on. He's had an emergency. And so I was changing things. While we were bantering, there was talking. Of course there was talking. I can do two things at once. Yeah, no, it was partially just banter. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. We've got like I love this like Christmas wreathy, like kind of looking, frame that they add to these advent calendar preview thingies. What are they called again?
I think it's Advent. I think
it's
called an Advent calendar, like the Advent.
Advent engine.
Advent engine. That's right.
Yep. There we go. Exactly what you said, Carson. Exactly.
Indeed.
So, right as this came up, perfect timing. I'm just noticing that the thing I applied doesn't look as good as it did in photo. Oh, it's a little bit smaller. Okay. Anyway, putting that aside. I've added Carson's Twitter finally to the footer here. Yay. Welcome. And so I just wanted to... Andy's up there. I mean, Andy's a great guy, so that's fine. He's definitely not.
Just our friend Andy.
He's just our friend. I mean, Andy was like... He was my partner in crime. He wasn't like before we had a podcast, he was just like the person who like got the channel, through the tough times when everyone was worried about COVID and everything like that. So I'm happy to have his Twitter on there, and he's a great guy. So welcome everyone. We do like to make an entrance. How is the audio? So I think it was last week, or it might have been the week before. One person said the audio was really low, and I went back, and it was fine for so long, and I never changed the settings on anything. I went back and I watched it, and I was like, it is a little low. So could you guys could you let me know if I am coming through like what I don't want is like the Disney streaming service where you have to turn it way up. And then when you finish watching, the next thing you watch blasts the crap out of you. Like, I get annoyed with Disney. I don't get annoyed with everyone else for having their sound at a normal level. So, yeah.
I find that happens on Tubi sometimes too. I don't know if you use that service.
No.
It's like free and it has advertisements. But like sometimes the movies are not the right volume, and you have to have your TV at like 15 or something like that for the movie to be like good sound.
Yeah.
And then the ad just like blasts your speakers out. It's like every single ad feels like the THX logo reveal as well. Just like you're just like
yeah, like that old Simpsons meme where they show the TRX and it's like the audience is now deaf or something. Yeah.
I also have one gripe. This has nothing to do with Warhammer or the stream, but continuing on the Tubi thing,
me?
They keep advertising.
Okay.
No,
okay.
They keep advertising like John Deere, like heavy duty, like millions of dollars worth of logging equipment to me, and I'm like, who do you think I am? Some like logging mogul or something like that. I can afford it. I think I will buy the 2022 model of this logging equipment. I'm going to do that.
Have you ever tried Googling your name? Is there like some kind of?
That brings up another funny point. Every time I've Googled my name, some I think racist guy.
Oh no!
Like a YouTube. It's not my name. His name is
okay.
It starts like Jason or something else with a son.
We know several Jasons. I just want to say.
But with Whitlock at the end.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I always see like these super controversial videos and stuff like that. And I'm like, I hope that's not what people see when they try to Google me or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and before I forget, some like housekeeping. There is a new Patreon and YouTube member exclusive video that came out. We have a new Patreon. Welcome to Braidfoot, I think his name was, and or no, sorry, Calais. Calais is the new Patreon, and he's an ogre player, and he's a huge fan of yours, Carson, actually. And so I told him we're doing the review next week, and so that's coming up. But before I forget, Braidfoot is a YouTube member, and stupid YouTube doesn't send me notifications when I would love to know. Like, nothing. It makes me super happy. So if anyone ever becomes a member on the YouTube channel, could you leave a comment and let me know? Because I just have no way of knowing unless I manually check, and it's like 5 steps in, and I can't do it on my phone usually. Anyway, it's a pain in the butt. So if you do, I would love to know. And there are emotes. I've actually made emotes for the channel way back when. So if you are a member, blah blah blah. Anyway, sorry for all that, everyone. And welcome, AB Curtis. What's up, man? Locking equipment, you can move more meat. He's not wrong. I mean,
That's true. And speaking of more meat,
yep.
I think there is a gift from the meat dimension this week, and it seems a little. Oh, it's a nice bottle of wine.
Lovely.
For the FEC show. That makes sense because they're a very noble army.
That's true. And
it is Peller Family Reserve 2022 Merlot. Interesting.
And red wine pairs with red meat.
That's true.
It is true.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers. And Keith said what I thought you were gonna say, which is when you turn up the volume to hear the conversation in the movie or whatever, and then the sound effects or whatever are way louder. I didn't have I didn't have that exact thing, but Liam and I were watching Ninja Assassin, which is currently on Netflix or whatever. I haven't seen it in years, and who doesn't like ninjas? And it's just so much lower than everything else. And so I told him, like, at the end of the movie, remind me to lower the volume again. Today you have to build your last 6 flares. I am behind on my flare building, but they are almost done being painted. Oh, you can't really see them. This is the scheme I went for. I went a little bit darker on the ghouls. I pretty much finished like the first 1,000 points ish. Almost done. They're so much fun to paint. Okay, so we have some Advent engines to look at. Maybe you guys can help us guess. Okay, so do you remember the other day when we had those heads?
Yes.
Do you remember what I said about that?
Didn't you say destruction of some kind as well?
I said
destruction of some kind.
I said cruel boys. What if it's the heads that are hanging from the vulture cavalry in the short story we got about Gobsprak? And now and those wings look very similar to the tips of Gobsprak's giant vulture thingy.
That's true.
So I'm pretty hopeful. There's nothing to say that those two things, that this thing and the last thing is connected, but we got a bunch of FEC rumor engines that actually did end up connecting. So I'm kind of hopeful that it's Cruel Boys cavalry that we've been dying for so long, right?
Yeah, I like that. I'll agree with you on that one. I think that this is definitely Cruel Boys,
right?
Or actually, it could also be a very early, Umbraneth reveal. Because if they're dark elves, I could see them being bird-esque,
Well, they're supposed to be dragon demons or something, shadow dragon demons of
That's
some
fair.
kind.
Yeah, I think guess number 1 is definitely Cruel Boys,
right.
But I would say that maybe there's a...
You know what's funny is I was gonna say maybe ogres, because they have birds that they hang out with, right? That they hawk with or whatever, don't they?
The blood vultures?
Yeah. Maybe,
yeah, possibly.
Maybe some kind of they really like making hunters, so maybe some kind of hunter with a giant whatever you just told me the name of that thing was. Blood vulture?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say no. Yeah, I'd be happy to have more ogres.
Hopefully they're just but hopefully the rules are a little better. If you're gonna make this awesome new mini, I really I know everyone likes the face of the blood pelt hunter. Look at you and your fancy wine. This is way too classy for this stream, sir. Where do you think you are? It's one with the meat. Anyway, I would like a little bit better rules on some of those hunters and stuff. You really hope Umberneth leans into the Shadow Demon thing? Yeah. I mean, honestly, if they... Like, obviously GW kills it with the designs, right? But if they just... if they just do averagey kind of designs with Shadow Demon elves, like, holy crap. Like, it's over. It's freaking over. Anyway, so Advent Engine number 2 is clearly like, it looks rad. First of all, I said this to Carson right before the stream started. It looks freaking rad, but it's clearly 40k. Like, all of those Oath of Moment seals are all 40k. I mean, like, I can't think of any that are in fantasy, but and this, yeah, we were saying probably Templars or Sisters, but I would love it if it was fantasy. Maybe you guys have something. Oh, OBR or Sylvaneth, huh?
Interesting. I think if this is going to be AOS, then this is probably going to be something that we're going to see as part of the Dawnbringers book that's upcoming.
Right.
Because supposedly we're supposed to be getting something for each death faction. So
okay.
FEC, OBR, Soulblight, and Nighthaunt.
Well, we already got FEC, right?
Apparently, it's supposed to be all of them, just period.
Yeah,
it's like Usharan is going to be in there as well, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because he's on the cover of the book. I'd imagine that he's going to be.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to buy it just for the lore.
Yeah.
Just for the love of Usharan.
I could see this, like, if I don't think it is AOS, but if it is AOS, I could see it being like a new model that's revealed in that book or something.
Right. Yeah.
But my guess is Sisters of Battle.
Sisters of Battle makes the most sense, because if you look at the bottom, it looks like flames are licking it, and yeah. But I would rather it was OBR or Sylvaneth with a beefy crunch guest. A Shadow Elf is still an elf. Boo, hiss, pass. I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable assessment. Yo, Bahamut. Apparently 2 armies are armies of renown, just like KO and Ogres were. Okay, so then, I mean, Effie, it makes sense if they're not going to get a model in there, right? Because we just saw, like, a crazy amount of models, and the tome is out, and nothing is in there about that, so it'd be kind of crazy to, like, have a tome that came out, and then, like, literally, like, a week later, we get something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I don't. We should not be spending this much time on what is probably going to be a Sisters of Battle model.
You're right. We should probably speed up through this anyway, because I think
that's
most
true.
people are for
That's
the
true.
FEC
That's
stuff.
true. That's true. This looks rad. It could be anything. Like, clearly a fur cloak. I'm gonna guess another, what do you call them? Virkos Soulblight model. They have a lot of fur.
I guess it's Space Wolves.
Space Wolves would be cool. I heard that they're getting like a huge release at the end of 10th edition. So, also I'm kind of an optimistic sort of filler. Anyway, this is clearly Rudolph's antlers. Like, what else could it be? Oh, sorry.
Those are weird looking antlers.
I know. I actually think it's probably a plant of some kind. Maybe like some kind of nerdly plant. It's got like buabos or whatever you call those things on it. I don't know.
I don't know what to think of that.
Me neither. Pass. And the preview, there's a Black Library preview happening on December the 9th at 6 a.m. I will not be getting up for that because I don't want to. And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm really glad that they're doing something like the preview that I care about the least at like 6 a.m. They generally seem to do the big previews at like 7 p.m. our time, which is awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be something where, like, I'll click on the Warhammer community page, at whatever time I wake up in the morning.
Yep.
And then, like, scroll down it and be like, neat. And then that's about it.
Bye-bye.
That's as much mental space as it'll take up in my mind.
Exactly. Yeah, the Black Library previews tend to be a lot less interesting than the miniature side of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it's the cover of a book.
Exactly.
There you go.
So we do have so I wanted to, before I forget, say a big thank you to Soren from the Flesh Eater Courts Facebook group for kind of compiling the information that came out of Man Reed's book and putting it out there so we can use it to talk about some Flesh Eater Courts. Okay, so Carson, I am going to play FEC. I am so excited about this army. It's such an amazing chance to make some funny narrative sort of stories and cool conversions. I really like the book. It plays very differently than the last one, and I know that it's a lot of people are disappointed by like how much it's changed, but whatever. I don't know what people were expecting. You know, like it's funny because like when the Skaven book came out and the IDK book came out, we all were like, it hardly changed at all. Like, what's the point of even getting a new book? And now, so they can't win. If they change it, people complain. If they don't, people complain. Overall, I'm very happy. High in verisimilitude, high in like narrative and feel, and you know, a little bit of bookkeeping, but overall, I really, really like it. A lot of tools. It's a toolbox army, a variety of ways to play. I wish they wouldn't. I'm not a huge fan of like sub-faction based battle line, but it makes more sense in this particular case, and so yeah, I'm okay with it. What are your like kind of
Opening thoughts?
yeah, opening thoughts? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that Flesh Eater Courts, like this new book, is essentially like the destruction of death.
Yeah, yeah.
I
meant to
which
say that.
which I like.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I'm a destruction player. I love all things destruction. So it basically just feels like a lot of what like ogres and iron jaws are like, just destruction in general is trying to do, but with the added benefit of there's actually a good amount of recursion here. So I think that that's pretty interesting. It also has some other interesting things, like you'll see some bravery bombs later on, that's pretty spicy, and I think that's a cool thing that not a lot of factions like really actually play on very well, because this will be doing things that isn't just subtracting your bravery; it's actually like acting on, you know, results of your bravery, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's already got a thumbs up for me because it's the destruction of death. That's the TLDR.
I like it. Yeah, well said. You know, I saw a few people picking up on that, you know, as did I. That's why I think I like it so much. It's like a very Timmy army in death, and I like death. I mean, they had me at like funny story, you know, at weird that, but like truly like Cruel Boys, I like that as well about them. Like we heard ahead of time, I don't know if you remember or not, but like before AOS 3 came out, we heard that we were getting orcs, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me! Like, you could do all these crazy things, and then you brought us orcs, and then they came out and they were these weird swampy poison orcs, and I was like, this is awesome. But they didn't play like a destruction army; they play like an order army or something like that, and you're just like, oh man, this is not what I was looking for. So, but yeah, I saw a comment today. Someone said it was something about like how Iron Jaws and FEC think this game is a race, like they're the racing faction, and I was like, that's so awesome. And yeah, agreed. They're super cool. So I guess we should just dive right in. So the first battle trait is pick a grand court, and you have either Morgant, Blisterskin, Hollowmorn, or Gristlegore, and you no longer need to like. They're obviously that, you know, they got rid of this everywhere else, but no longer are your artifacts and command traits tied to these sub-factions. That was super annoying, and the only way to like pick whatever you wanted was to go factionless, which was usually not the best choice. They actually made it interesting in Flesh Eater Courts. Like there was a lot of builds around the general scheme, but people don't like to do that. They like to make this fun thing on their own. So anyway, putting that aside, actually the first thing that should be probably talked about is not the sub-factions, because Noble Deeds, actually they've already previewed Noble Deeds, But Morgaunt literally talks about noble deeds, right? So that's what I was thinking. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, we can go back up to the sub-faction actual effects afterwards. But I would like to say that
Yeah.
it's nice that there's only. I know that people like to have more sub-factions, but if you kind of think about it, in most books you have like six sub-factions. That's like the standard-ish.
Yep.
You're always going to have like 2 or 3 kind of useless ones anyway, and you're going to have like maximum 2 or 3 usable ones. So it's kind of nice that they're like, look, we're just going to cut the fat. Like, here are 4 sub-factions for you to choose from. And a bunch of them have play, which is pretty nice. So
It's true. I think outside of Gristlegore, I think they're all good, and I can make a case for all of them. Gristlegore, like, as it sits right now with the monsters being so expensive and being quite easy to kill, and that hasn't changed. Like, that's the same as before. It's harder to make an argument for them. But there's some play. There's some interesting things we can do. So... the noble deeds points were previewed. I'm gonna see if I can figure out where it is. Oh, here we go. Noble deeds. Each time a friendly flesh eater court's hero successfully casts a spell that is not unbound, you get 1. If you chant a prayer, you get 1. And then for each wound or mortal wound that you do that is not negated, not including the mount, you get 1. So, it's not too hard. It depends on how squishy or not. Like, the heroes tend to have, on average, 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. It's basically your average hero. Like, it seems like everyone's getting the exact same profile, whether you're a Saurus Scar veteran or a vampire or, just some schmo.
Or an Ogre Glutton champion.
Or an Ogre Glutton. God dang it, rub it in, why don't you? But god dang, that's brutal. Anyway, regardless of that fact, so actually the weird thing is that the hero on Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon, they only have 4 attacks, and I wonder if that's on purpose or not, because it's like you already said that you don't get anything from their mount, so it seems unnecessary, but I don't know, they never seem to change the stats afterwards, so. Yeah.
Generally, I think it's probably pretty safe to assume that the first time after this hero fights, or each hero fights, they're probably going to be either at or close to 6 noble deeds. I would assume that.
So I did play a game, and I think he would have. The problem is that, like, when they're on a Terrorgeist, Alex brought up a good point, or I don't think he was legitimate saying he was going to do it, but because you get to choose. We mentioned this last week. You get to the person who's getting attacked gets to choose when and where the wounds get allocated. If your Terrorgeist and everything, you do that all at the end. Your Terrorgeist will do way more damage than him, so the Terrorgeist would likely kill the unit, and so then you could just say, well, I'm putting these points on at the end and be an obnoxious dick. And rules as written, that actually is, like. You can probably make that argument for sure. I do hope that they FAQ it, saying that, like, you know what I mean? If the wounds that would have been allocated or something, I don't know. Like, they need to figure it out. But anyway, so those are the noble deeds. You can have a maximum of 6 at any one time, and then you get a bunch of other abilities. But before we forget, maybe we'll go back up to the different courts. Here, why don't you start with Morgaunt, if you don't mind? Morgaunt? I don't know.
Oh, sure. We're going to the courts. Okay, one sec.
Just, I like to...
Morgaunt,
yeah, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. Morgaunt or Morgaunt is give 1 noble deeds point to each friendly Morgaunt Flesh Eater Courts hero at the end of the turn if that hero is contesting an objective. So that's another way to just generate more noble deeds points. And it also just says contesting, which means that you don't have to actually control it. And then there's other situations too where, like, let's say in limited resources where the objectives are actually being picked up and you can't control them anymore, you can still contest them. So they'd still be getting points for that.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
It also says end of the turn, not end of your turn. So it's in your opponent's turn as well that you're going to be getting noble deeds points.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, because, like, you might be like, oh, well, I'm going to, go first. And then you're like, oh, man, I'm losing out on one. So, yeah, that's a great point. This one seems like what everyone is drawn to as the strongest immediately. Watching what the people are saying in the WhatsApp group, the Facebook group, the reviews in general, it seems like, this is just a solid one that you can kind of rely on getting something out of. So, and then I guess we'll go to my probably favorite one. I don't know. I'm not saying it's the best, but I really like Blister Skin. I always have. I like Flayers. They are battle line. Oh yeah. In Morgaunt too, the Crypt Guard are battle line. Only in Morgaunt. And then Blister Skin, the Flayers you get battle line, and it's called Pious Nobility. Friendly aberrants gain the priest keyword, but they cannot cast spells and chant prayers in the same hero phase. Like, okay, gee darn. So, because you'll see in a minute that the prayer lore is way better. There are some heroes with some really great War Scroll spells. In fact, most of them seem to have a good War Scroll spell. But, like the courtiers are not casting spells anyway. So it's not like I don't know. I think, there's so many aberrants now with the Gore Warden, and like a lot of things are aberrants now. A lot of the heroes are. So I think it's a really good ability. The prayer lore is really solid, and it also gives you access to binding endless prayers, like for Daughters of Cain, that kind of thing. You can also take general prayers like Curse and Bless and all sorts of things. You wouldn't take Bless obviously in this army, but or Heal rather is what actually probably what you would take. I think Bless is everyone has access to it, right? All the time. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I really like it, and I'm looking forward to it. Do you want to take Hollowmorn?
Let's do it.
Cool.
Or I'll do it. So add one to the damage characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Hollowmorn Knights. So the Morbeg Knights that we'll look at later. Units that have made a charge move in the same turn. This ability has no effect on the attacks made by mounts. So this is kind of cool. Like, it kind of allows you to think about like Alpha Strike heavy lists, and as we'll see, there's some stuff where you can kind of protect your guys, bringing them in with I can't remember, it's the Archregent or someone else that like actually can bring in a unit of knights.
It's the Gore Warden.
Gore Warden, and then I think it's the Archregent, which if you cast a spell, you can allow them to move d6 inches after they're set up in the end of the movement phase.
Exactly.
So you could do something pretty nice where you'd be able to actually reliably get in for stuff like that.
And
so
a lot of stuff has +1 to charge, and that's also a Court of Delusion thing you can take for another +1 to charge. So like the Morbeg Knights come with +1 to charge on their War Scroll, and then if you have the banner or whatever, and then you can Court of Delusion so you could have +2 to charge. The Abhorrent Archregent has a spell to move d6 after, so you could move d6 and be +2 to charge. It's actually pretty sick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and because the knights are flying as well, we'll get more into it later, but because
Indeed.
the knights are flying as well, like that's actually pretty scary, because if you're already like 3 to 5 inches away from your opponent's front line and you fly, then you can just leap over them and just hit whatever's in the back, and having +1 damage while you do that it's pretty spicy.
Exactly, and they have to have fly to even be taken into the side. The knights, by the way, are the Flayers, the Morbeg Knights, and the Crypt Horrors. And Crypt Horrors become battle line in Hollowmorn, and also Usharin is he's in Hollowmorn, as is Gormain, the judge guy. But funny enough, because this only applies to knights, you're not losing anything, like you're not gaining anything by taking them in Hollowmorn, which I thought was a silly decision. I actually don't like it, because you're only being punished for taking them outside of Hollowmorn. So like it's like, oh well, you know Usharin doesn't get that a Noble D point if he's in an objective. It's like, was that really a big deal? Like, that dude is going to get 6 points. Like, he will get it, right? So I don't know. It just that was like something that's a little bit off for me. But I think Hollowmorn is the other one I think most people are looking at to be one of the stronger ones. It's just good. Like, +1 damage is arguably better than -1 damage that Seraphon gets, right? It's just like, now it's not everyone, but neither is what do you call it? It's for Sauruses and whatnot. So it's not like that. It's the case anyway. Anyway, Gristlegore, Terrorgeist, and Zombie Dragons become battle line. Not the hero versions, obviously, but the regular guys do. And then they've got Savage Strike, which is the old command trait, I believe, from the old tome. At the start of your combat phase, you can pick one friendly Gristlegore monster on the battlefield. So it just has to be a monster. It doesn't have to be one of the battle line guys. The Strike First effect applies to that monster until the end of the phase. So the downside to this one is it's in the FEC's combat phase. So you only get access to this 5 times a game. And it's only on one thing. So this doesn't really overcome the downsides to taking Gristlegore. I don't think this is enough. I think this is definitely the weakest faction. But I know that they were a little bit like... When the original Flesh Eater Courts tome came out, Gristlegore was like considered to be quite OP. And I think they could have just left it, but they didn't. And then, you know, it hasn't been the best one for almost since the start. So I'm a little disappointed because monster lists are so much fun, but I don't know. I guess you don't really need to encourage people to take the fun monster list anyway, and maybe that's their thinking, or I don't know, but it's a shame. Courts of Delusion. Would you care to explain the Court of Delusion in general?
Sounds good. Yeah, so Courts of Delusion, in the first battle round, after the players have received their starting command points before the start of the first turn, you can pick one of the following delusions to apply during the battle. One thing to note is that because it's after the players have received their starting command points, you do know who is going first, which is really valuable information when you pick this. So you can pick one of the following. You can pick the Royal Hunt, which is add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that target a monster. Crusading Army, add 1 to the run rolls and charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units. Defenders of the Realm, add 1 to save rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they are contesting an objective that you control. The Grand Tournament, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes that are not a general if they made a charge move in the same turn. And then the Feast Day, the Feeding Frenzy ability applies to a friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they're wholly within 12 of any friendly heroes that have 4 or more Noble Deeds points instead of 6 Noble Deeds points. So that's something that we'll kind of come back to later, because that ability wasn't mentioned yet. But yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and before I forget, BV Crunch says he has a question about Usharan. I will try not to let you forget. Please, yeah, help us remember when we get to him. Which one is your favorite of the Courts of Delusion?
I actually like that none of them are my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I think that they really allow you to see, like, okay, I know this player is going first. I can see what their army is, and I can see, like, I have a lot of information to pick what I want to do, and this applies for the rest of the battle.
It does.
Which is pretty nice. So you can kind of see, like, am I going to be alpha striking this person? Maybe you're playing against, like, these Claw Raiders, heavy armies, so it's just like, of course I want to have +1 to wound against all your monsters, like, absolutely.
Right.
Maybe you're playing against an army that has, like, lots of high volume attacks, but not a whole lot of rend. So maybe you do want to have +1 to your save rolls because you plan on being pretty defensive. It's like an objective heavy in the center. Maybe you're playing, like, you know, what's it called, Geomantic Pulse or something. That's really nice. So
right.
I think probably the Grand Tournament is not one that you're going to be picking a lot.
That's my least favorite for sure.
Yeah. I think the other 4, I have arguments for them, for sure. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think most of the time, again, it depends on the situation, right? Like, if we're on a thing with a lot of objectives and I'm facing down something that I'm worried is going to, you know, bump me off turn 1 or something like that, you know, the +1 to your save is quite strong, especially in this army, which is very squishy compared to, you know, most of the other death factions. And the recursion depends on whether your heroes are getting stuff done. So if you don't even have a lot of heroes, you're not getting a lot of recursion either. The heroes are not cheap. And the ones, anyway. But I like that one. I like the +1 to run and charge. You know, it just makes it more reliable. If you're not getting in with this army, you are in trouble. And there are ways to do run and charge, so that gives you 2 inches more movement. And like we talked about earlier, if you're deep striking with the Gore Warden, it adds to your reliability to get in. I like that one, and I do like Feeding Frenzy because like it against certain armies, like if it's against Stormcast or like Sylvaneth, you might be struggling to get those 4. You might be struggling to get to 6 noble deed points, and if you get to like 6 on another hero, you may want to be bringing units back or recursion on a unit that's taken some damage, and you don't want to, so you could just have the one hero that has 4 noble deeds points in the bubble, giving everyone +1 attack, and then you're using, it really is a utility toolbox kind of army, and I think that that would in certain situations be an excellent choice. I think unless you're against the table against a lot of monsters though, like or against giants or whatever, I'm not really taking the +1 to wound that often, probably.
Yeah.
Because it's only against a monster, but at least there's no other caveats. Like the one thing that actually annoys me in here is the Grand Tournament, where it's like the Flesh Eater Court's hero that is not your general. It's like you didn't need that. Like that was so. Anyway, I'm fine, right? But they're all really fun. I really like what you said, and agree, of course, that the you get to pick this after you know what's going on. It's at the start of the the battle, but after you know who's going first, so it's really cool.
Yeah, there's never going to be a feel bad moment where you rock up to the table and like you pick something that's just utterly useless against your opponent. So
I mean, you could if you're an idiot, like.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to allow for idiots. Yeah. But yeah, really cool and thematic, and I love it. Noble Deeds. Okay. Oh wait, we already went over that. I was like, that sounds familiar. Muster Guard. At the end of your movement phase, each friendly courtier can spend 1 of their Noble Deeds points to return 1 slain model to a friendly serfs unit that is within 10 inches, not wholly within, by the way. That is correct. Or 2 of their Noble Deeds points to return 1 friendly knight unit that is within 10 inches of them. You can use this ability multiple times each turn as long as the required Noble Deeds points are available. So this is kind of like the old one. It's not for free, like you need to earn these points. But it's cool, and there's a check for it. There's a check for the recursion. So that's cool. And then
the interesting thing here is I think that it's at the end of the movement phase,
right?
Which means that you probably don't have very good methods of like getting Noble Deeds points back after you have done this already in your turn. So you're kind of sacrificing your ability to do Feeding Frenzy, which we'll kind of get to later. And that also, so that kind of brings up like maybe you should be taking the feast day pretty often, because that means that you don't always have to be at 6 to be getting that benefit. You could still be returning like 1 knight model or something like that, or returning a couple models. So.
Yep, an excellent point. And the interesting thing about this too is that they can be in combat, right? Which is normal for recursion, right? But because this happens at the end of the movement phase, it would happen after the person has redeployed, for example. So you can move them up, recurs them in. You could theoretically recur them into combat. Because it doesn't say that they have to be outside. It doesn't say like if they're in combat, blah, blah, blah. This will probably get FAQ'd if it's allowed at all. But the main thing, the thing that's kind of interesting here that I don't think that they will take out is you could recur them after a redeploy and just make your, like on a knight, like that's another like what, 2 inches? So then...
Yeah, I'm not sure what the base size is, but yeah, probably
50.
At least.
So it's a little under 2 inches. It's like 0.8... 0.8
for the Morbid Knights it's 50 long.
Oh no, they look like they're on ovals, so they're probably they look like they're on big ovals, as a matter of fact. So yeah, on the I was thinking on the flares and the horrors are both on 50s, so that's like about another 2 inches that you're gaining to your charge effectively.
Yeah,
so it's interesting.
You can even do some things like if you're playing against a super shooty army, and you're like, okay, I'm really worried about this Unleash Hell that's going to be coming at me. You could just like auto run your stuff up and then just spawn a guy into combat,
Yep.
and all of a sudden they can't unleash hell on anything.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah. Really good. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
You could also do some fun stuff like, sorry, I'm just like,
No, please. Yeah, no, it's something just occurred to you. I want to hear it.
you could also do something like, this is particularly good against like the Glotkin, for instance, because it's your movement phase. The end of your movement phase starts before the end of your movement phase for your opponent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the Glotkin issues his command at the end of your movement phase, but you wouldn't be able to do that until after you finish your end of the movement phase stuff. Just go boop and just like tag him in combat, or whatever he was intending to charge with combat.
Dirty.
You probably don't actually want to do that now that I think about it, because you can't. There's a lot of stuff that makes it so you can't pile into Nurgle, but like still interesting nonetheless.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's
Maybe,
fair.
maybe if you have a screen that you want to do that with.
Well, it's better than you getting charged by a bunch of Nurglings and then getting your flares or whatever blasted off the table.
Yeah.
I like it, actually. I think it's pretty cool.
Yep, it's a secret corn tech here.
Yeah, exactly. And then summon loyal subjects at the end of your movement phase. Each friendly aberrant can spend 6 of their nobility points, so you have to spend everything to summon loyal subjects. If you do so, pick one friendly serfs or knights unit that has been destroyed and add a new replacement unit identical to the one in your army with half the models. So basically, it's like the Gits one, but it doesn't rely on your terrain piece. Replacement units must be set up wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield, more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Each one can only be replaced once, blah, 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 all the normal stuff. Remaining models which are not set up as part of the replacement unit count as having been slain and can be returned to the replacement unit using the muster guard ability or rally command ability.
So the interesting thing about this one is that in other recursion armies where you can kind of bring units back from the dead,
yeah,
usually there's some sort of specifier, or like based on when it happens, you can't really do anything with that unit.
Yeah.
So like I'm pretty sure in Soulblight Gravelords, when something comes up from a gravesite after it's died, it just can't do anything for the rest of the turn. I'm pretty sure that's written in there.
Right.
And for Glimpsbite Gits, it happens at the end of their turn, so they can't do anything in that turn either.
Right.
And the interesting thing about this is that it's at the end of your movement phase. So I wonder if you could do some stuff where it's like, well, you can already get lots of like bonuses to charge and stuff, but because these are being set up at the end of the movement phase,
Yeah.
does that factor in with like I think, was it Gore Warden or Archregent? I can't remember which one.
It's the Archregent who has the War Scroll spell that allows you to move, and absolutely it would, because it says the end of the movement phase, and his spell specifically says at the end of the movement phase.
Yeah.
So it absolutely does work. There's only 2 things that we can think of that spell even works with. It's the Gore Warden dropping folks in, and this. So that's clearly intentional. It's only D6 inches, but like, it's something, man. Like 6 inches at the end of, yeah.
Yeah, and you do have to be wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the board, it's kind of painful,
Yeah.
but you never know. Like that could be, it's pretty rare that like an objective is going to be within 6 inches of the edge of the board.
Well, the nice thing, sorry, but I don't want to forget, like,
Sure.
the nice thing too is that it doesn't have to be within a distance of the aberrant. It's just battlefield edge, right?
Yep.
So there's some play there that's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I like that it's different than the other recursion armies, where it's not just like, here's a useless unit that's sitting here now. It's like, this unit could charge you this turn, which is pretty scary.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you bring them back outside of 9, and then they get to move. Like, you can do something, man. Anyway, the whole army has a ward of 6 up. Boom. Done. Nailed it.
It's Death Army.
Yes. And would you like to do Feeding Frenzy? And because I forgot to turn off Facebook.
Sure. Feeding Frenzy is just add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any heroes that have 6 Noble Deeds points. And as we mentioned earlier, the Feast Day Court of Delusion would make that so that it's only 4 instead of 6 Noble Deeds points. So that's a pretty nice ability.
Yeah, it really is. It applies to mounts. It's just, you get it. And it can really make a difference if you're leaning into monsters and that kind of thing. If you're leaning into like high quality attacks, if they had said it doesn't work on the monsters, I would have been pretty annoyed. But I'm glad that they kept it like it is. Works on the mounts, so even on like the knights, you know, Terrorgeist, zombie dragons, or whatever. Obviously, it's melee weapons, so it doesn't work on like the shooting attacks for the zombie dragon. But yeah, overall, really dope. I think it's cool. Pretty good. Delusions of Grandeur. So these are the heroic actions. They're both awesome, and they're both very techy and interesting. The first one is Rousing Oration. Pick one friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero and roll a dice for each other friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit wholly within 12 inches. For each 5 up, you get 1 Noble Deeds points. I tried to do it in my practice. We were going to film a Path to Glory game, but I only had 2 units, so I was only going to get to roll 1 dice. And then I was like about to do. I was like, no, man, that would have been a huge waste. But normally you're not playing, you know, a Path to Glory game. By the way, my camera broke. I don't know if it's going to be able to be fixed or not. I'm trying to get a new one, but there might be a little bit of an interruption in battle reports. I'm very sorry. There's one more that we had filmed ahead of time, and so hopefully everything will go off without a hitch. I ordered a cheap camera, but I couldn't get rid of the HUD on there, so it was going to look really bad, so I'm returning it. Anyway, wish me luck on that. Would you like to do Scent of Blood?
Sure, sounds good. Pick one friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero and roll a dice. On a 3-up, you can make a d6-inch move with that hero, but it must finish the move more than 3 inches from all enemy units and closer to an enemy unit that has any wounds allocated to it. So that one's pretty nice. Later in the game, for sure, is when you're going to be wanting to use that, but
yep,
free movement is free movement.
So this was interesting. I actually used this in the Path to Glory game. Now, I hate that it's on a 3-up. I wish it just, because you went 3 up and then you might move 1 inch. Like, F off. Just get them. It's your whole. Anyway, okay, I'll stop. Or even make it a 2-up. Anyway, I'm going on. But putting that aside, it is really interesting tech. So I killed a whole unit with my Terrorgeist. I killed a whole unit of Ogroid Myrmidon, whatever they're called, Theridons, and with the Terrorgeist, right? Then they were wiped out, and then the other 2 units hadn't taken any damage. But I was still in combat with one of those units. So I think it would work that I could move away from them. I could just retreat, because it only says you have to move toward them if they have wounds allocated to them, but none of them did. I know it doesn't work super well with the fluff, but no one had taken any damage, so as I saw it, I could actually move out of combat. Now, I rolled a 2, and it didn't matter. But I think this tech works, though, because I wanted to charge somewhere else, right? I didn't want to charge his 20 block of warriors, because I ended up staying in combat with them, and I got nothing done, like, the whole game, right?
Yeah.
But... yeah, it is. It's an interesting kind of piece of tech. We talked about it before, where you could use it to, like, you could be barely outside of 30 inches for your caster. Then they could go for Master of Magic or whatever that battle tactic is, and then you could be like, oops, now I'm in. I mean, you have to roll the 3-up again, which for me, trying to do it, I think 2 or 3 times, I'm at a 0 times achieved. But I don't know. There's some really interesting tech here, and I think they're both really cool heroic actions overall.
I think the interesting tech comes from whether or not you are correct, and you can just move it anywhere if there are no wounds allocated to it. It's also important to note that, like, something at some point is going to have a wound allocated to it, probably in the game, and it doesn't specify a range. It just says that. I guess, like, it doesn't say you have to move as close as possible. To that unit.
You have to move closer.
So you just be like 0.1 of an inch closer than you were,
exactly,
as long as you like made the same move. Yeah, I think there's definitely play with that one.
And like even if you might stop a battle tactic. Someone might be measured out so they're 30.1 inches out, and then you're like 3 up. Oh no, guess I unbound your stuff with my extra primal dice. Sorry about that. I mean, now this obviously relates to our current season, but then again, like this is the last season, so I don't think there's much point in not talking about some of the stuff you can do in the current season. There's lots of small casters too, so it's very easy to fill out the battalion. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the first one, actually, here, can you do the delectable appetizers?
Sure.
Thank you.
Delectable appetizers. So this is a Monstrous Rampage. Pick. So you can do this with either a Royal Terrorgeist or a Royal Zombie Dragon. Pick one enemy unit that has a wounds characteristic of 2 or less and is within 3 inches of this unit, and roll a dice. On a 3+, that enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then, for each mortal wound that was caused to the enemy unit and not negated, this unit heals 1 wound. So basically, it's kind of like a Stomp Plus, where it's like deal some damage, heal some damage.
And it's slightly less likely that you get it because it's a 3-up instead of a 2-up.
Yeah.
But then you're paying to like heal a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, you know, I think it should be a 2-up, but fine.
Right? I agree. Yeah.
Okay. This one I'm excited for. Blood Curdling Shriek. Pick one enemy unit within 3 inches, 3 up, subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of that enemy unit until the end of the turn. So, spoiler alert, there is an artifact for -2 bravery. You then, on a 3-up, have them at -4 bravery. Oh, I've got Usharan, your -1 bravery for the rest of the battle, and you can continuously stack that. So assuming that you get off this 3-up, you are at minimum -5 bravery, and if you're on a Terrorgeist, you can't use Inspiring Presence. Like, you're probably going to fail that unless you're a Death or Demon army, and even then, only if you haven't lost more than 1 model. It is, like... This, I love bravery bombs. I used to rock it in Seraphon back in the day. The Dread Saurian could put you at I think it was -2. And the Celestant Prime, I think, made you -1 or -2. So you could have them like -2 or -3 or -4. I can't remember what it was. And that was without any like ability to stop people from taking Battle Shock back in the day. Like, it was... So anyway, I think this is the perfect army to have a true bravery bomb thing. There's other ways of stopping them from being able to do it if they're in range of the terrain piece. There's no Battle Shock immunity of any kind. It doesn't turn off Inspiring Presence. It's the same as before, but it's like you can not ignore Battle Shock, which is really cool. Yeah. And then there's also like other stuff like the Head of Nagash or whatever from the Endless Spells and different things like that. So yeah, man, some fun stuff here. Really excited for that. Okay, maybe we'll read a couple comments, make sure we haven't missed anything. Resource management, not just freebies. Totally agreed, Keith. Got for smacking people in the bravery characteristic. I mean, like, I hear you, but like, it doesn't, like, this is the army where it makes sense, right? In terms of fluff, it's like, this is a bunch of nightmarish, like, truly one of the most horrific armies in the game, really. And so I think it just makes so much sense here. Yeah, the Doom Wheel against SCE dragons. Yeah, I you know, that's I hear what you're saying there. Oh, the king. Yeah, absolutely. Feast Day is yeah, agreed with everyone with what you guys are saying. Anyway, on to the command traits. Whoops. Okay. Oh, no, I didn't go down far enough. I thought I went down too far, but I didn't go down far enough. Yeah, Royal. So this is for aberrants only. Shadowy Obfuscation. This general is not visible to enemy models while it's more than 12 inches away from them. This is better than not being able to shoot them because it applies to magic as well. A lot of spells you need line of sight. It's a surprising amount, actually. I think this one's awesome. I could definitely see using this if you're worried about going up against shooting armies and you're taking like a Terrorgeist for your general, because they're you know, surprisingly and depressingly easy to kill. So this makes it so that you don't have to worry about it until you can at least get into combat. You know, if you're rocking Gristlegore or something like that, you're like, yeah, I get to go first. You know, I have strike first or whatever. And it's like, oh, I got shot off the board. You know, sucks to be you, right? So this is pretty dope. the worst case scenario, you might have to like bubble wrap them a bit, from teleporting warp lightning cannons or something like that, or KO, for example, just all of KO. But I think it's really cool. It's fun. It's not my favorite. It's my second favorite, but yeah, they all have this place.
Yeah. Then moving on, Hebrewish Scholar. Add 1 to casting rules, dispelling rules, and unbinding rules for this general. If this general has 6 noble deed points, add 2 to casting rules, dispelling rules, and unbinding rules instead of 1. So that's pretty nice. It's just standard.
I think it's my favorite. I think I'm putting this on the Archregent, throwing him in the throne, getting him to rack up some noble deed points, and then he's +2. Like, that's pretty good. That's like a slan, right? So
yeah.
Or croak. Sorry, croak if it's raw. Slan with the astrolith bearer or something like that. Like, it's just pretty strong. Yeah.
Very true.
Master of the Menageries. When using the summon loyal subjects battle trait, you can pick 1 friendly flesh eater court's monster that is not a hero that has been destroyed instead of a unit of serfs or knights. Set up a replacement unit as described in the battle trait and allocate 6 wounds to that replacement monster that cannot be negated. It's dope. It's cool. It works mainly if you're taking Gristlegore, and that's where you'll probably see it. Almost, because like you're not going to see the regular Terrorgeists and or zombie dragons outside of that. But I like this. I think it leans into the Gristlegore side of things, and that's fun, basically. Yeah. Then we've got the Courtier General only. Would you like to?
Sure. Sorry, I was just checking something to see if.
Please.
I was checking to see, like, Master of the Menagerie. Does that mean that you can infinitely respawn your monsters? No, it does not. Replacement units cannot themselves be replaced. So.
Right.
Yeah. So Stronger and Madness.
You could do multiple, like you could do other ones, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can replace each monster once.
So,
with your general.
And what's it doesn't say that. It says when using the summon loyal subjects battle trait, you can pick 1 friendly that's not a hero that's been destroyed instead of a unit of serfs. So I think as long as you're using, you can use it on other heroes as well.
As long as your general's alive, yeah. Interesting.
Right?
Neat.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Courtier General Stronger in Madness. Add 2 to this general's wounds characteristic. While this general has 6 noble deeds points, they have a ward of 5+. So just makes them tougher, which is just kind of nice,
Yeah, exactly. Like, none of the courtiers have a lot of wounds, but they can sometimes be pretty important. Like, courtiers are the only way you're bringing models back within the unit and not replacing them. So this is, it's good to keep them alive, right?
Yeah. Another thing is that there are ways to like add more to your ward save,
right? And
courtiers are typically not very big models, and usually the caveat is that you have to be wholly within 3 inches of the thing that's kind of giving you an addition to your ward save.
The Crypt Guard.
So you could technically bubble wrap and have like a 3-up ward or something on your courtier.
Wait, how would you get the 3-up? It's 5 up, goes
2
to
units.
Oh, as it sits right now, right? We don't know. That's true. So we'll get to that in a bit. But as it sits right now, you can have them on a 1-up, like
yeah.
But I don't think that'll survive very long. But you could definitely rules even as intended, like future proof. 4-up, no problem. 4-up intended, right? Which is pretty actually really good. And then they're rocking 9 wounds, so they can't be targeted if they're next to battle line. Yeah, you can make them pretty hard to kill. I think I'm gonna go for Cruel Taskmaster, which is if this general uses the Muster Guard ability. That's assuming I'm picking the Courtier, which I'm mostly not, to be honest. But anyway, you can reduce the number of deed costs for each returned model by 1. If the cost was already 1, you can bring back 1 additional thing. So you can bring back 12 serfs or 6 knight models. That's actually pretty awesome. I like it. And if you put this on a Vargolf Courtier, it's not that hard to get that model up to 6 points. So I actually could really see using that. Anyway.
Yep. So the last one is Savage Beyond Reason. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by this general is 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. If they have 6 noble deeds points, it scores 3 hits on the target instead of 2. Exploding 6s is nice, but I think that the utility from Cruel Taskmaster probably makes it my top choice as well.
Yeah.
So, but certainly not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, this is my least favorite for sure. And I like what Ludivicus said. I know he said these ain't terrifying creatures. They're noble knights. Ain't supposed to be scared of that. You are if you have done wrong. You're probably invading their country. Like, if you're not afraid of a bunch of shining knights on noble steed, like, then that means you are one of them, right? But if you're an evildoer, which I know you are, Ludivicus, you should be afraid of them, okay? Or wait, no, you're not scared, so that means you're one of us. Never mind. Got it.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good.
It checks out.
It's all good. Royal Treasury. Wait, did I go to the wrong thing?
No, Artifacts of Power.
Oh, artifacts. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to keep track of where it is on 2 different screens. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. The Grim Garland, my favorite. Oh baby, minus. I think it's -2 bravery.
Subtract 2.
Yeah.
That's not.
So this thing is wrong. It's actually subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic when they're within 9 inches of the bear. You can only put it on an aberrant hero, but there's so many awesome aberrants that are fast. Gore Warden, he deep strikes if he wants. You can have a deep striking zombie dragon, aberrant on zombie dragon rather. You can there's lots of teleporting in this book. It's just awesome. You move around -2. There's multiple ways of stopping people from using Inspiring Presence or all Battle Shock, and in general, it's super fun. It's my favorite one, even more than one that's coming later, which would seem like it's more Timmy and up people's alley. But this is just a little bit more Johnny. It applies to that side of my brain. So yeah.
Blood River Chalice is a really simple one. Just once per battle, heal 2d3 mortal wounds. 2d3 wounds.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they didn't make this a once per battle on a 2-up or anything like that. It's just flat out heal 2d3 wounds.
Exactly. So. Which probably doesn't need to be pointed out, but it is significantly better than 1d6 because the minimum is 2, and you're on average getting more than you would.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I do think is very Timmy, but not quite as much as the Grim Garland or whatever. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, the bear can use this artifact. If they do so, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by the bearer and their mount. They put that in there because normally artifacts and command traits don't apply to your mount, so that's really exciting. It's cool. And it is Timmy, but it's once per battle, and I don't inherently like once per battle things. It's I feel like I'm the kind of guy, and I'm not exaggerating at all, when I play a video game, if you have some kind of rage mode, beast mode, superpower, I never use it. I only use it in the most dire circumstances, and it makes me kind of get better at the general game, but then also I feel like I'm I'm just the kind of person who doesn't like to use it unless necessary, and so the once per battle just doesn't apply to me as much. I don't enjoy it as much, but yeah.
Keith says once per battle you can say, "Whoops, I forgot to use that." That's very
yeah. Oh God, you know me so well, Keith. He's not wrong.
Okay. So Noble Heirlooms for the courtier heroes. Medal of Madness. Once per battle round, the bearer can issue a command without a command point being spent, and they're treated as if they were a general when they do so. So that's pretty nice because you can give this to someone who's not the general, and they can be issuing commands at 18 inches, and who doesn't like a free CP. So this is
true.
effectively optimal focus for free on a non-wizard hero.
It's true. The only problem is it's the same issue as the last one. It's once per battle.
Once per battle round.
Oh, is it once per battle round?
Yeah, every battle round. So
okay.
you get to use it 5 times. 5 free for CP in the game is pretty darn good.
This is wrong again. It says once per battle on here, and yes, you're okay. Sure about that? You're looking at.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't remember this one. If I'm being honest, I'm mostly putting stuff on my aberrants. and I kind of like them a little bit better. But once per battle round, so you're getting 5 command points, and at 18, that's actually really good. Also, it's an artifact, so you can have more than one artifact. So yeah, so oh man, that's good. That's actually quite good.
It's approximately 5 times better than you thought. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there's the Flayed Pennant. You can re-roll charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Chords units while they're wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. It's fun. It's good utility. You know, there's a lot of you're gonna want to make your charges, and it's just all of them wholly within 12. That's a big bubble. You know, depending on the model you're taking. I mean, it actually doesn't really, because like the biggest one you're taking is the Vargolf Courtier with his oval base, so you could, you know, spread it out a little bit more than 24-inch diameter. But anyway, it's cool and it's dope. But the next one's my favorite, which is
the bearer gains the priest keyword.
Yep.
Carnal Vestments. So if you really want to like just be getting as many priests as you possibly can, you could be running blister skin.
Yep.
And then just take this on one of your courtiers and then go to the moon.
It's
So you'll
true.
be casting every single one of your prayers every turn. Yeah.
It's true. The only other access to priest, so there's blister skin on aberrants. There is the abhorrent cardinal, but if you don't want to like mess with your slots, just to take that one guy just to have a priest, and access to the amazing priest or prayer lore in the book, you can just take it on this guy. Like, you know, like you probably want access to at least one prayer minimum, and that's the 5-up ward prayer. So like I'm taking this a lot of the time, to be honest. Like I'm going to try and make room for this. The Medal of Madness is a lot better than I thought it was. But I don't know, like outside of blister skin, I'm probably taking charnel vestments, I think. At least
I think that makes sense.
You know?
I'm kind of torn. It really depends on like what the rest of my list looks like. I think if I have 2 priests already, then I'm not taking charnel vestments. I would take Medal of Madness and then
Totally agreed.
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But if I've only got like 1 or even 0 priests, then certainly I would want to have charnel vestments. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now the only other question is, would you pick any of these over the subtract 2 from your bravery characteristic, Grim Garland, if you can only have 1 artifact out of all 6 of these?
If I can only have 1, I'm sticking with the Grim Garland because I like the idea of the bravery bomb so much. I don't know that that's as effective though. Like if I'm just taking for pure competitiveness, honestly, it's it's actually hard to choose. Either probably Medal of Madness, because like 5 CP per game at 18 inches. Now they could just murk your courtier, which frankly isn't that hard to do. But I don't know.
I mean, if you're assuming that, then them being a priest doesn't matter either.
Well, it kind of doesn't. It kind of doesn't. Like if you're only taking 1, because you're going for like the 1 drop, let's say, right? You put charnel vestments on your priest. You give himself or someone else a 5-up ward with the prayer. You know what I mean? Even in blister skin, like you give them a 5-up ward, and then that means that on your aberrant, on Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon, you can give them curse. So then like they're gonna get in, right? And they're probably gonna be within 9 inches of something at some point, and then you can curse it. You know, there's a few things. I'm not sure if it's pure competitiveness. I actually don't know what I take. Grim Garland, Medal of Madness, charnel vestments. I can see an argument for all of it. I have to play a few games though with it, and honestly, I don't think you should trust anyone who just says from the beginning this is 100%. Like, yeah,
I agree 100%. I think it depends on like what your army structure is for sure.
Right.
But yeah, it's
your
nice to have it
sub-faction
to choice though. You know, like I appreciate that there's actually some thought that has to go into it, other than this one is clearly the best one and I take it every time. So that's pretty nice.
I like Ludivicus. I just like happen to see his first. Now priests are scary. Runs away with the rest of the choir boys. Ooh. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Spells and prayers.
Yes, sir.
There we go. This spell, is this the worst written spell? Is this the worst spell they've ever created, Carson?
Yeah, anytime they have to like write a novella just to explain a rule, I feel the same way about the I think it's the Throat of Gur thing for the Maw Pit. Like, stop
Right.
with these like super complicated rules.
Yeah, man.
It's really, it's just really annoying.
It's really annoying. Not a fan, and also, like, this spell is also pretty bad outside of the current season, because like you're 10 or more is really hard to get. But anyway, it's a spell that has a casting value of 6, range of 18 inches. Pick one enemy unit within range, visible to the caster, rolls 6 dice. If 2 or more dice share the same value, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay. The odds are that you're going to get that thing on 6 dice, but you've already got to get it off. So it's currently only as good as an 18-inch arcane blast, or whatever it's called. If 3 or more share the same value, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until the next hero phase, in addition to the previous effect. So 1 mortal wound, subtract 1 from hit rolls. Okay? If 4 or more dice share the same value, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase, in addition to all the previous effects. If the casting value was 10 or more, roll 8 dice instead of 6. Each effect can only be triggered once, even if there are more than one set of dice with the same value. Ugh.
Yeah. I think this should have been stepped back by 1 for each effect.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
Where it's like, okay, you start off by dealing 1 mortal wound.
You
That's
just get
minimum.
1 mortal wound. Yeah.
Then if you have 2 matches, it's -1 to hit. Then if you have 3 matches, it's -1 to wound. I think that would have been way better, because like the likelihood of you getting 4 or more is extremely low, even on 8 dice.
Yep. What you just said makes it worth reading this all to your opponent every time you have to explain it. But right now, it ain't worth the headache, and it's not. Frankly, it's not even good. Yeah.
No.
Poopy.
No.
Okay.
No, what I said, I think, is what brings it to being like fine.
Fine. Usable. Yeah. You can make an argument for it. In the current season, rolling 8 dice, I still don't think I'm taking it. 4 dice are the same. Like,
I just don't understand like why.
Ugh.
I would never want to cast a spell that has a chance to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense. Like, barring my opponent having like spell ignores or something like that, of course.
Totally different. And also, like, unbinding is a thing, but we've already got to get over that hurdle. It's not like this automatically goes off and then you get X, Y, and Z. It's not the case. Yeah. Ugh.
Yep. And then we have Deranged Transformation. Deranged Transformation is a spell that has a casting value of 6 and a range of 24 inches. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit wholly within range and visible to the caster that has a wounds characteristic of 7 or less. Until your next hero phase, add 2 inches to that unit's move characteristic and add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by that unit. If the casting roll was 10 or more, you can pick up to 3 different friendly units instead of 1. This one's quite good.
This is how you write a spell.
Yeah, you have like a super far range, which is really nice.
Yep.
This. A couple of caveats to this as well is that, like, if you're playing an Alpha Strike army where a lot of your stuff is being set up, unfortunately will not apply because they have to be present during the hero phase.
Right.
But
it doesn't affect your monsters.
Definitely.
If you give it to a courtier, if you give them the +2 wounds thing, it doesn't apply to them anymore either, unfortunately. But 3 different units, on a 10 up.
Yep. And as Keith said, FEC has missile weapons that roll to wound, of course.
Yep.
They do exist, so you could pick that as well. And it doesn't even say, like, pick 1 melee profile or pick 1 profile. It's just add 1 to wound rolls, just period. So if something shoots and does melee, then they benefit from that twice, which is really nice.
It's really dope, and it works really well in like a blister skin or blister skin in particular, actually. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. And in this season, it's extra good because you're almost always going to be on a 10 or more if you want to be. So.
And it also, it will be I think if they're a certain bravery or lower, you can also add +1 to wound rolls, or it's +1 to wound or +1 to hit with the flares. So you could maybe have them at +2 to wound. So
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay. Deranged, oh no, Crimson Victuals? I actually don't know this word. I'm not sure what it means. And not crimson, by the way, victuals.
What does that mean?
Is a spell that has a casting value of 6, range 18 inches. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range of the caster, and the friendly enemy. Sorry. And a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit that has a wound characteristic of 1 and is within 6 inches of that enemy unit. That enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then for each wound or mortal wound that was caused by the enemy unit and not negated, you can return 1 slain model to the friendly unit. If the casting value is 10 or more, the enemy unit suffers 2 D3 mortal wounds instead of D3 mortal wounds. I don't know. The 2d3 mortal wounds is kind of big on its own, but you do need the 10 plus. If you're combining it with like some primal dice kind of shenanigans, then I can see it being pretty good. Yeah. 1 slain model.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't it only for serfs, or did I remember that wrong?
it just says Flesh Eater Quartz unit that has a wound. Oh, wound characteristic of 1.
Oh, right.
So.
Yeah, so that only applies to serf units.
No, aren't the new ones? Are they 2 wounds each? I thought they were 1 wound each.
No, the Crypt Guard are 1 wound.
That's what I said.
Wait, so yeah, but they're serfs.
So that would apply to them. Oh, I thought they were knights. I don't know why.
No, they're serfs as well. Okay. Basically everything with a 1 wound maybe this applies to. I guess this would apply to a lot of the, what are they called? The royal beast flayers or whatever the Warcry warband is. But I think they might have the serfs keyword anyway, so I don't know. It's okay. If you've got a lot of serfs and you've got like some decent plus to your casts, I can definitely see taking it. You know, it's 18 inches, which is pretty far, and if you can reliably get over 10, then you're, you know, if you've got Feverish Scholar and make an extra primal dice, then, you know, you can probably blast this out and do 2d3 mortal wounds. Maybe it'll help you kill something and get a battle tactic. Like this, it's you have to build around this one, though. Like many things in this book, nothing wrong with that, but, you know, there it is.
Yeah,
right?
I do think there's some, like, more movement shenanigans with this one, too, like... You could theoretically have this unit be set outside of 3 of that enemy unit, and then as you return models to it, they pop into combat, which is pretty nice.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's true.
That's an option, but that relies on a lot of things being lined up already. Like because this is in your hero phase, you wouldn't have previously been able to make that unit move into the correct spot. Right. So it just had to have already been
like just outside of 3, because you can only bring back models within 1 inch of models that were already there.
Yeah.
So
granted, you could do other stuff too. Like, let's say you do have something in combat within your opponent, and then there's something that's like maybe 5 inches away from that, or like maybe like not very far away essentially, and then you just kind of like pop them in combat, sort of thing. If that makes sense. So like if you're already in combat with one of your opponent's units.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then you just like.
Oh, you could bring something else in. That's true.
Yeah, you can tag more stuff, which is kind of nice.
But you can't, like, if they're 5 inches away, you wouldn't be able to do it. They'd have to be like a little less than
4.5, and then you like pop up.
Yeah.
1 inch away from the nearest.
Oh yeah, they just have to be within 1 inch. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's true. And the Crypt Guard, I believe, when people looked at and compared the pictures, they were on 32 millimeter bases, like almost definitely. So
right. Yeah,
that's true. Yep. That's a good point.
Yeah, so even if it is 5 inches away, then you would be able to get away with that with 32 mil bases.
Right? Because they have to be within, it's not wholly within, it's within 1.
Just within, yeah.
Yeah, so then, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think that would work.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things here.
Right.
I think that Deranged Transformation is definitely going to be like the staple reliable spell, for sure.
Yeah.
But Miasmal Shroud is just bad. And then this one is like, probably bad, but it's not the worst. Because it says,
Yes.
do you have to have a? Sorry, I was
No,
reading.
no,
Do you
no,
have
no,
to
no.
have a? You have to have a flesh eater quartz unit to deal wounds to whatever it is.
I believe so because it says, or one second,
Successfully cast. Pick one enemy unit within range of the caster,
and a
and
friendly, yeah.
a friendly flesh eater quartz unit that has a wounds characteristic of 1 and is within 6 inches of that enemy. I think you're picking your unit and the enemy's unit. I don't think that the
That's
condition
true.
is that you're near your unit. So you could just do this to deal damage if you wanted to. So I mean, like 2d6, 2d3 mortal wounds at 18 inches isn't terrible, just by
So
itself.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like originally that's how I read it, but then when you said, "Oh, do you also need to do that?" There is a comma there. So I think that is the distinguishing factor. A semicolon would have been better. Other then you wouldn't need a anyway, you wouldn't need the end.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think the comma actually lends credence to your theory on it. It would have been a lot better if they just made it clear. Like it needs like a couple more words, and it's super freaking clear. You know,
It's already like 2 paragraphs. Just add a couple more words.
a couple more words. Like god dang. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in order, probably my picks are Deranged Transformation, Crimson Victuals, and then Miasma Shroud.
Way down there in Miasma Shroud, yeah. Until the day that they -1 from that thing, like you suggested.
To the point where like I wouldn't even necessarily build into spellcasting with this army.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Maybe have like one just for Mystic Shield or something, but still.
The nice thing is though is that, and we'll see this later on, is that if a unit has a War Scroll spell, it's usually good, like quite good. The Zombie Dragon Hero one is awesome. So is the Terrorgeist one. Archregent, Gore Warden has there's lots of sauce in that general, direction. But as you guys will see, the prayer lore is way better. By the way, I'm disappointed that because they've done it again where we went from 6 spells down to 3. It's like, guys, just think a little longer, and then we've got like at least 33% of these spells are not good, right? At least it depends. Like if they FAQ the bottom one in a way that they could make that one like very useless as well. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
with the prayer scriptures.
On to something really quite exciting. So bless this meal is a prayer that has an answer value 3, 18 inches. If answered, pick one enemy unit within range and that is visible to the caster. Each time a model from that enemy unit is slain, you can heal 1 wound allocated to one flesh eater quartz unit that is within 6 inches of that enemy unit. So basically you cast it on, and you can't be unbound. It's a freaking prayer. And by the way, what Keith said earlier is like, I was thinking the same thing. They've been doing a lot more prayer stuff lately, and so he was wondering if there's going to be a lot more prayer kind of involved stuff, and if you're going to be able to I was wondering if maybe you're going to be able to unbind prayers in AOS 4 or something like that. Not that we have any solid information on that, but putting that aside, this can't be unbound. It is a prayer, right? So you cast it at 18 inches on something. You send your Terrorgeist in there. It's on like let's say you're like in the worst faction. You're in Gristlegore. You've got your Terrorgeist. It's on 1 wound. You cast it on like a bunch of clan rats or something like that. It kills them all, obviously, and then heals all the way up. That is so freaking awesome. There's no limit, and thank goodness there's no limit. That's what makes this kind of fun and exciting and interesting. Yeah, it's super cool, man.
That's pretty spicy. It also just adds if you're playing a Knights heavy army or something like that.
Yep.
It's just extra padding, which is pretty nice. You're always getting back to full health most of the time if you just put it on any chaff unit. So
it turns them into trolls, essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good for that, and then also prayers are very common in Blisterskin, and you're probably rocking a lot of flares over there. So, or in Hollowmorn, you're doing this on your knights or whatever, and yeah, it's dope.
Yep, absolutely. The next one is the Summer King's Favor. Summer King's Favor is a prayer that has an answer value of 3, range of 18 inches. If answered, pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater Quartz hero wholly within range and visible to the chanter. Until your next hero phase, that hero gains 1 additional Noble Deeds point each time they slay an enemy model. So you're just really doubling up on that, basically. it's pretty good. I feel like I'd be chanting "Bless this meal," and we'll see later Charnel Conviction first.
Charnel's where
But
it's at. It's just
yeah,
18 inches, 3 up. You get a 5 up ward. Don't forget, there's ways of adding to that ward. It's just good. You can't interact with this.
Yeah.
Suck it. I've got a 5 up ward.
an 18-inch bubble of 5 up ward is nuts. Like most armies have like
Right?
12 inches, or I guess Pontifex is 18 inches, isn't it?
Something
Pontifex
like
Sinestra.
that. But she's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm saying like every example of that is great.
Yeah.
But like so many armies have spells that'll give wards on 5 ups or something. Like if you look at like the most recent list that won the World Championships, he brings Teclis, which has I think it's called Protection of Hish. There's a spell that has to get off, so you could unbind that, right? There's some way to interact with it. Whereas this is just a flat out, if you roll a 3 up, you have this forever, and there's no way your opponent interacts with it. So it's just super, super good.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a bubble, right? You pick one fresh flesh eater
That's my
course.
bad.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep.
It's still really good though. It's just 18
Yeah.
inches, and it's not wholly within, and it's just they get a 5 up ward. I mean,
I misread that. That's my bad.
but like
Yep.
like there's other ways of and there's other models and such that have like you could put it on the bodyguard unit that's bodyguarding something else, and now they have a 4 up ward, and then the thing that they're guarding has a 4 up ward, like if it's Usharan or something like that already has it. And regardless, I mean, it's a prayer. Like it's not interactable, and it's super good. This is my favorite one, and then bless this meal for sure. Yeah.
Every time I say bless this meal, I want to say bless this mess.
Bless this messy meal
Every single
because we're flesh eater court, so
Yeah.
yeah. We tuck in the napkins into our shirts, and yeah. Mount traits, very exciting. Love it. Would you like to?
Yep.
Sure.
Sorry, I was taking a tasteful sip of wine.
Nice.
Baneful Breath. Improve the rend characteristic of this unit's pestilential breath by 1.
Cool. It basically goes from -1 to -2, but the damage characteristic is already 3. The thing that is poopykins is that it's D6 attacks. So it's like this might only affect 1 attack on there. So it's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
That's my third favorite. They just basically go down in order, I think, for me. Death from the Skies is if you want to do like a deep strike kind of alpha strike army. Instead of setting this unit up on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it is soaring in the skies in reserve. If you do so on the end of your first movement phase, you must set this up on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. So you can just kind of come down, and if you've got +1 to charge, it's the end of the first movement phase, so that you could move D6 with it. It's just kind of interesting. It's if you want to protect your big general or beastie, whatever, your linchpin unit. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, the next one I think is my favorite.
Yeah, the next one is Venerated Zombie Dragon. Add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts monsters while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So that's just a general buff piece. Bubbles are great. We love bubbles.
And you like if you're taking Gristlegore, you're probably taking this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing that kind of makes me sad is that we've said that Gristlegore is probably not like the best choice for your sub faction.
Yeah.
But they've done a lot of things to make it
To give it sauce. Yeah.
like there's a lot of things. It's like maybe I do want to build around monsters in this army, because like there are a lot of buff pieces. So.
But Carson, what you have to understand is I already wanted to do that. Right? Like,
Fair.
I already wanted to do that. Just let me do it, man. But it's cool. Royal Terrorgeist have their own sets of mount traits, which is really dope, in my opinion. Gruesome Bite, it used to be reroll your jaw attacks. Now it's definitely not as good, but I still took it in my Path to Glory game. Add 1 to your attacks characteristic of your Fanged Maw. The Fanged Maw is the one that does 6 mortal wounds on a 6. There is a spell on the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist where you can hit the War Scroll spell is you can re-roll those. So it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like you can make it happen, Captain. So yeah.
Absolutely. And then you've got Horribly Resilient. This unit's Royal Blood ability heals up to 2d3 wounds instead of up to d3 wounds.
So the Horribly Resilient, or sorry, the Royal Blood ability is after you attack with, I think it's with an abhorrent. I'm pretty sure it's only abhorrents get this rule, but it has to be an abhorrent to be on a Royal Terrorgeist anyway, to have a mount trait. So this makes sense. Instead of healing D3, you heal 2D3. It's pretty good. It just makes them, a little harder to kill. And then Morbeg's Swiftness. This unit can retreat and still charge later in the turn. That's dope. More utility, more mobility. Against most armies, I feel like... I don't know. I can see a reason for all of them, to be honest. Yeah.
I would probably take Morbeg's Swiftness more than anything. Just because whenever you have a big hammer unit like a Terrorgeist is going to be,
yeah,
you probably don't want to have any chance that unit can be pinned.
Yes.
So,
and
being able to feel safe about that is it's nice.
You're so right. And if I had taken that in my game, I ended up, winning our little Path to Glory game, because I was able to get out and get back in. But like, you know what I mean? If I hadn't, they would have completely changed the game and I would have probably lost. But the adding 1 to the Fang Maw attacks is so Timmy because, you're looking for that slot machine of 6s, and, I typically only got 1 if I got any at all. So I don't know. It just feels so good, man, to get those 6 in that situation. But, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Oh, I didn't scroll it down. My apologies, everyone. Okay. So now we are on to Grand Strategies. Would you care to take us? I'm going to go grab another bottle of water, and I'll be right back. If you wouldn't mind starting us off.
So the grand strategies, of which there are 3?
Yeah.
I thought there were usually 4. That's kind of weird.
Oh, really?
I feel like on most books there's 4. Let me check something. I just have to verify. This is going to bother me if I don't. How many does ogres have?
I think there's only 3. I think there's usually only 3.
There's 4 for ogres.
Oh, weird.
Pretty sure there's usually 4.
Huh. Maybe that's some of the later stuff.
Slaves to Darkness also has 4. That's weird.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah.
Maybe they're getting lazy at the end of AOS.
Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I'm checking one more just to make sure.
Yeah. I'm going to check Skaven.
4. Yeah.
What? Really?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Skaven. They're all bad though, so that's the... okay, let's look at an order army. Right?
So Sigmar has 4, as Keith said.
Jeez.
So, but anyway, this one has 3.
Okay.
Starting with legendary exploits. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are at least 3 friendly Flesh Eater Course heroes on the battlefield that each have 6 noble deeds points.
Wow. Seraphon has 4 too, by the way.
I don't like this one.
Yeah, this one's horrible. This
Really bad.
This one is poopy. Yeah. Expand the kingdom. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if a friendly aberrant is wholly within enemy territory and the enemy general is not wholly within enemy territory. I don't mind this one. Because
That one's not bad.
you don't have to have the specific, aberrant. You just have to have an aberrant. So if you're leaning into aberrants, which I am most of the time, I've got at least 2. I think it's not bad.
This one's only painful if you're playing. So there's some situations where it's painful. Like some armies have multiple generals because they'll take like Catacross and.
That's true. The other thing too is depends on the size of we were doing one of our Path to Glory scenarios, whatever. By the way, if you're a subscriber to Patreon, there is a set of scenarios that Carson and I made to add to your Path to Glory campaigns. It's supplemental. It's really fun. We were playing Duo of Fate, which hasn't been seen on the channel yet because the camera didn't work. And anyway, the deployment zone is very small for that one, eh? Like it's like a quarter of a half of that thing, right? So I was like, yeah, this is not the best one to choose here, but yeah. I think the last one's probably the best one.
Yeah, the last one is Defend the Throne. When this battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If a friendly Charnel Throne is on the battlefield, it is garrisoned by a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero, and there are no enemies within 6 inches of it. So I agree that this one's really good, but I think that there's some caveats because we haven't discussed some of the things later on.
Right.
Where like, do you actually want to be garrisoning this a lot? Do you want to be having someone like dedicated to sitting inside of it? I think the answer is yes, for sure.
Yeah. And it's usually an arch regent.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this one's pretty good. It's kind of on the same level of like, you know, there's I know there's the I'm at Deepkin one where it's like you don't want anyone near your boat. There's a Gets one that's like that too.
Most of them, by the way, most of the other ones say they cannot be smashed to rubble.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out. So
this one is it's the same effectively though, because like when this is smashed
that's
to rubble,
true,
you can't garrison it anymore.
That's a good point. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, this is a little more elegant that way too. I should probably have. Anyway, battle technique.
Battle technique.
Screamed to death. Pick one enemy. By the way, these are not the greatest either, but I think they're okay. Like I think they're fine. Scream to death. Pick one enemy unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactique if that unit is destroyed this turn by an attack made with a missile weapon used by a friendly crit flayer unit, infernal courtier, or royal terrorgeist. It's disappointing that they didn't add zombie dragon on here.
Yeah.
I guess they're not screaming. I guess that's why. Okay, fair enough. But like, just
yeah. I mean, this is going to be one where you're going to accidentally be able to do this one.
Yeah.
There's
or build into it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can certainly build into it by having just more shooting units. Yeah. But I think that this is definitely going to be one where it's like you can't. Like this certainly isn't going to be like a turn one tactic. This isn't going to be. I mean, I guess it could be. It just seems like it's very situational.
That's fair. I mean, like you bring the Gore Warden, you deep strike 9 flares into deep strike, right? You run up your Infernal Courtier. He screams at them, gives them all +1 damage if he kills something, and then they just scream into another unit, and then it's just like they're gone. Like 4 attacks each. 4 times 9 attacks at -1. It's 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage if the courtier killed something, 1 if it didn't. Or is it 2 rend? I think it's 1 rend, but I can't remember. Putting that aside, it's pretty good overall. I mean, I like this one because it's kill something, if I'm being honest. Like, it just applies to the Timmy and me. But yeah.
Yeah, very true. The next one is Valiant Slaying. Pick one enemy monster on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit is destroyed by an attack made by a friendly aberrant. That one's kind of bad. Because, like, first of all, your opponent just might not have any monsters, period, so you just don't have access to this tactic. And then also, you have to have an aberrant, which is killy.
Yes.
And that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah, frankly, like, the general consensus as of right now seems to be that aberrants on Terrorgeists and Zombie Dragons are overpointed. So kind of like the Loon Boss on Mangler Squig problem, which you still don't see after they came down 40 points. I don't think you're going to see these guys. I'm going to bring them because I've got like 2 conversions that I'm super excited about. I finished one of them. Lady Penelope is done, or Queen Penelope rather, the Radiant. She is beautiful and she is lovely, and I can't wait for you guys to see her. But yeah, no, this is really bad. I hate that there's 2 ifs in this sentence. If they have a monster, if you have a killy aberrant. Like what monster are you going to kill with a regular aberrant that's not on a Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon? Like, what were they thinking? Anyway, it is what it is. This one is poopy. Overrun. You complete this battle technique if every enemy unit on the battlefield is within 3 inches of a friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit at the end of the turn. So this could be a potentially good late game one where you just need to charge, like if they've got 2 units and you've got 3, not all your units need to be in combat, just theirs do. So
yeah, it is. So the one unfortunate thing I think is that it's at the end of the turn. So
right. So if you
kill your stuff,
oh, they can kill yours. That's true. Yeah. You can kill theirs, but you have to kill all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. If you kill everything,
you're right.
I'm not as worried about that as so much as I am like them turning around and killing something of yours, though.
That's a
that'd
good,
be pretty
yeah,
bad.
because the army is very squishy in general, so that's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is possible late game for sure, but I think it's going to be tough. I think it's usually pretty rare for an entire game to be in combat, is the thing.
Right. No, that's a good. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't mind it. I think I would give it like a medium difficulty. It's situational, but it's.
I actually rate this one a high difficulty, in my opinion.
Really, I mean, I think it's better than Valiant though. Valiant slaying.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's like very high, like nearly impossible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So then you have Glorious Feast. You complete this battle tactic if every friendly unit on the battlefield is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Flesh Eater Quartz hero that has 6 Noble Deed points at the end of the turn. Certainly possible.
It's possible.
But not great.
But it sucks because it means it's like, okay, if you want to do this battle tactic, first of all, you have to get to 6 Noble Deeds points, and you can't use them. Like, okay, thanks for, fun policing our whole deal here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Granted, so if you're standing on an uncontested objective, or sorry, if you're standing on an objective, like you're
and you're in
contesting
Morgaunt?
the hero,
Right.
well, not even just in Morgaunt, like you get one, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the turn, and you decide when that order is that always? Oh no, that's not always. It's just Morgaunt, is it?
Yeah, it's Morgaunt.
My bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're in Morgaunt, you can spend one instead of
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you spend it at the end of the movement phase, and you can't do it with an aberrant so only with a court. Anyway, we're making it like it's seeming worse and worse by the minute. Whatever, it is what it is.
Granted, you could have multiple. You could technically cover. There's ways to get it. It's just not great.
Actually, the one thing you could do is if the guy doesn't have it, you could suicide him into a unit. It's just like, well, took care of that problem. Yeah, and then if it's
worst case, if he spikes, he gets his 6 Noble Deed points anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then what do you call it? I was thinking if it's like a courtier and it's your general, and it's like, well, they killed my general, and now all I have to do is kill that unit, and it opens up another battle tactic. I don't know. There's some 40 chess you could play potentially. Lance formation. You complete this tactic if 2 or more friendly knights units made a charge move this turn, and the charges for each of those were 7 or more. Stop halfway. I'm even fine if it's made 3 charges, but 7 or more, we cannot even control those dice at all. Like, you dicks.
Granted, it does not say unmodified charge roll.
Fair. Yeah.
So
okay. So you could be plus
you can
2.
Stack your charges.
That's true.
Yeah, you can be plus 2.
Plus 2. Okay.
So
still, man,
making a 5-inch, rolling a 5 for 2 units, basically.
Yeah.
Not great. I'm not defending it.
No.
But
and your grand delusion has to be plus 1 to charge.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it has to be with the Morbeg Knights. I think. I don't think Flayers get plus 1 to charge on their war scroll. It is more shapoopy. Yeah, there's probably another way of giving them plus to charge, but anyway.
The Ties of Chivalry. Pick one objective on the battlefield that your opponent controls. You complete this battle tactic if you control that objective at the end of your turn, and it is contested by at least 1 friendly Serfs model, 1 friendly Knights model, and 1 friendly Courtier model. This one's fine, I guess. Like you kind of have like a mobile castle that you want to be moving up anyway, so sure.
Yeah.
But I wish they just picked like 2 of these, because it's like OBR has a pretty similar one where it's just like I think it's like a Bone Shaper or a Mortisan unit, and then a Mortis Guard are controlling an objective together.
Right. Yeah.
Then, yeah.
3 units is obnoxious. You have to build around it. They have to be in the right spot, and your opponent has to control it, and then you have to take it from them. This is definitely worse than Scream to Death to me, because Scream to Death, you just have to build around it, and there's ways of getting it done fairly reliably. Excuse me. I think these are some of the worst. Now that we're gone through them again, I actually think these tactics are not great, to be honest.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not great.
They're not great, but yeah. I mean, at least I like Flayers, I suppose. Went to make lunch and glad you got back just in time for battle tactics. Yeah, sorry, Keith. Yeah, these are not the most interesting pieces. They're definitely important if you're into strong play or tournament play or whatever. They're very important. They're extremely important. Like, so I've seen some people like look at books that are like strong books and say they're going to struggle in tournament because they don't have very many easy battle tactics. So this is going to be a challenging army to do in tournament, I think. But yeah, hopefully you can play the general tactics and stuff pretty good. Should we go into the war scrolls here?
Sure.
So the Charnel Throne, it goes in your territory, more than 3 inches from objectives, blah, 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 all the normal stuff. It is defensible, so you can garrison it with a wounds characteristic of 7 or less, which makes sense. A Royal Terrorgeist in there would be weird. I don't think much has changed other than the ruler of all they survey, D3 noble deeds points at the start of your hero phase. And also, I think Ghoulish Landmark was the same from the FAQ, War Scroll, whatever they call it, data slate thingy. While an enemy unit is within 12 inches, not wholly within, it cannot be affected by any abilities that allow units to ignore Battleshock tests. So, like, I think this even applies to, like, the new cities of Sigmar. Whatever, is it a command trait or whatever, where people don't run on a 4-up?
I don't think that's true. I think that...
Okay.
So this is saying that you cannot prevent the unit from taking the Battleshock test in the first place. At least that's how I interpret it.
But
if you have something that specifically says you roll
I
the Battleshock...
see what you're saying. But, like, it says it cannot be affected by any abilities that allow units to ignore... Oh, I see. Ignore... So, like, that would include, like, the Plague Furnace. But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. But aren't they effectively ignoring Battleshock tests, though? Like, they take the Battleshock test, right? And then on a 4-up, they don't flee. Correct?
Yeah.
But isn't that them effectively ignoring the Battleshock test?
That's tough. I would say it's not. But one interesting thing about this is that OBR has a battle trait, which is just that they don't take Battleshock tests.
Right.
Not anymore.
Not
They do
anymore,
take
baby.
Battleshock tests when they're near this.
And, like, no monsters in the army, too. God dang.
Yeah.
This is actually kind of... I mean, there's still bravery 10. And you know what? Like, I don't normally swear. If you're a parent or if you got kids running around, okay, be warned. But if you're annoyed by this ability and you play OBR, then fuck you, okay? You've been ignoring Battleshock tests for years, okay? Screw you, man. I don't care. Sorry, YouTube. I know that guy. I got kicked in the pants.
So in my opinion, does the bravery triumph get around this?
No, because it's an ability that allows you to ignore Battleshock, right? It's not an ability.
Well, I'm not even at that point yet. I'm thinking like, I'm going to read it out real quick. The triumph is indomitable. It says once per battle, after you take a Battleshock test for a friendly unit, you can say it is indomitable. If you do so, no models will flee from that in that Battleshock phase. So that, I think, the Charnel Throne would not affect that because it's not preventing you from taking the Battleshock test. It's preventing the models themselves from fleeing. So I would say that...
I disagree, though.
Okay.
Because they're still ignoring the Battleshock test.
I guess the wording is that, allow units to ignore Battleshock tests. I wish it said ignore the effects of a Battleshock test.
That would make it much more clear, because then it would apply to everything. It needs an FAQ, bottom line. By the way, if anyone doesn't know, and if you already shut this off, then that's hilarious to me. I'm not being serious. OBR players, don't at me, okay? And welcome, Logan. Good to have you. What's that, Carson?
I said at me instead.
At you instead, yeah. You take the flack. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
I'm super excited as well for FEC, Logan. I haven't been this excited in a long time. The lore, the fluff, the stories, the characters I'm getting to create, it's so exciting. We should probably move on, though.
We should. Also, Ludovicus, I feel the same way. Like, certainly there's an argument to be made both ways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it needs an FAQ.
I don't tend to read them in my favor. I tend to read against me, but I don't know, like just the English of it. Yeah. Usharan, Mortarch of Delusion, maybe the coolest model they've ever made. Like there's an argument that it's the coolest model they've ever made. So 10-inch move does not, like, nothing changes when you take damage. Also, just want to point out the monster table is very small, and I love that. I hope they move in this direction more. 16 wounds, 4-up save. Okay. 10 bravery. That's expected. Scepter of the Carrion King, 3-inch range, 3 attacks. Don't forget, about the, what's it called? Feeding Frenzy and other ways of giving people +1 attack. But starts out 3 attacks, base, 3 up, 2 up, -2, 3 plus D3. So not bad. Pretty good. Monstrous Claws and Fangs starts out with 10 attacks at the most. When he's taken 12 wounds, he only gets 4. That's a little rough because he goes from 10 to 6. That's a huge jump. I actually wish they had gone down to 8 and then 6. But anyway, 3s and 3s -1, 2 damage. Pretty good. He's got 2 spells, 2 unbinds.
He does go from 10 to 8.
Oh,
This
okay.
is wrong.
That's what I thought. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is wrong. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
It
So
goes 10, 8, 6, 4.
Oh, so there's 4 levels to it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. That it did feel small to me, but but like I'm not giving the guy crap. Thank you so much for transcribing all of this. It saved me a lot of trouble, and it gave people something to look at home. So thank you for your kind, generous work for the whole FEC community until we get the book.
Yep.
Yeah. So actually, could you read out the monster table, because I don't even know what's going on anymore. The wounds,
Sure, yeah.
wounds suffered.
So when you have 0 to 7 wounds taken, you have 10 attacks with your Monstrous Claws and Fangs, and your Epicenter of Delusion ability is 30-inch range. If you have 8 or 9 wounds taken, which is kind of weird, it's only a 2-wound range.
Yeah.
8 attacks on your Monstrous Claws and Fangs and 24-inch range on your Epicenter of Delusion, then everything past that point is correct on what you have there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, so 2 spells, 2 unbinds. It's treated as the general, even in addition. Epicenter of Delusion. If this unit is a part of a Flesh Eater Court's army, in your hero phase, you can pick 1 delusion from the Court of Delusion's battle trait until the next hero phase at Delusion. So you get to do this every hero phase, right? So you can kind of tailor it to the situation you're in. Until the next hero phase, the delusion applies to friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that are wholly within the epicenter of delusion. Starts out 30 inches, so it's covering 60 inches. It's basically like covering the whole battlefield, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's so awesome.
Even at its smallest one,
yeah,
12-inch, it's still pretty good.
More than 24 inches. Like, it looks like it's probably 130 millimeter base. We don't know, but it looks like it. Yeah. So super exciting. I love that ability. The Carrion King, while this unit has 6 Noble Deeds points, so it won't work with the whole 4 thing if you pick that Grand Delusion, but whatever, right? Friendly Flesh Eater Courts units are affected by the Feeding Frenzy while they're within 24 inches instead of 12. It doubles the size of his. Also, he's got a big-ass base. Shroud Cage Fragment. This is even cooler. At the start of the combat phase, subtract 1 for the bravery characteristic of each enemy unit within 3 inches. Until the end of the battle. And you can stack this, right? Because it's just going to be, if you stay in combat with him, like, goodbye bravery. Then roll a 2d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inches. This becomes a lot more difficult, but you can multi-charge. There's things you can do. If the result is higher than the bravery characteristic of that unit, the strike last effect applies to that unit until the end of the phase. If you've got the Grim Garland, you're -2. If you've got a Terrorgeist nearby, you're -2 again. So you're -5 minimum, unless you've been in combat for a while. It's even if they're bravery 10, you could probably roll over a 5 on 2d6 for at least 1, Anyway, it's pretty dope. Also, this unit has a ward of 5 up, and it heals 2d3 wounds. What do you call it? In addition, in your hero phase, yeah, that's what it is. It heals 2d3 wounds. If you've got the Crypt Guard around them, he's got a 4-up ward now. All of a sudden, on 16 wounds, it's insane. Glimpse of Delusion is a spell. This one's weird and it's wordy and it is not as good as I originally thought, but it's still interesting. Value of 7, range of 18. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range visible to the caster. Then pick one melee weapon. So it's one enemy model. I might have said unit just now, but I always get caught up on this. It's one enemy model, right? Pick one melee weapon that model is armed with, okay? And pick one other enemy unit within range of that weapon. So if all of these things line up, that enemy model immediately makes combat attacks with that weapon targeting the enemy unit. So it's really good if you've got like a hero that's got like one really good profile, next to another unit, for example. It does have an 18-inch range. I love the idea of this spell. It's so awesome. It's like the Gene Stealer Cult one, but yeah, it's really dope. So I like it a lot. It's more fun though than I think it is good. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, I think this is going to catch a lot of people off though. Like.
Yep, I agree.
I think that. I feel like we're moving into a meta where there's going to be a lot more castles. Right. Specifically, Cities of Sigmar is going to be a really big castle army.
For sure.
So, if all of a sudden you can take a beat stick in the center of that castle and just like smack something else really well, great, right?
Yeah.
You're having to have your opponent like really spread out their castle if they want to, not deal with that spell.
Right.
Granted, if you're playing Cities of Sigmar, Usharen's getting shot off the table turn 1.
Yeah.
Like 100% easy choice. He's gonna die.
Unless you have Crypt Guard nearby, 4 up
30
ward.
Fusiliers on, if they have that spell up, 10 mortal wounds, and then 60 shots. I think he's either gonna die or it's gonna be really close. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But barring that,
jeez.
I think.
Oh God.
I think that this is a pretty fairly costed unit. I think. He's 460 points for context.
Yep.
So he's about as much as a Stonehorn, but he provides a ton of utility. And also I want to kind of bring up some things in the chat that people are saying.
Please.
So number 1, Logan says that Epicenter of Delusion needs an FAQ. I bet you can't take the same Delusion twice. No way they give you +2 to save on objectives. I think that's probably the case.
Right.
You probably can't pick the same one twice. They're probably going to FAQ that. I think that makes sense.
Right.
And then number 2 is
wait,
Beefy
before...
Crunch was going to be...
Good.
Yeah. Beefy Crunch brought up something way earlier, so he has a question. So we're going to wait for him to ask that question, and then we'll address it. What are your overall thoughts on Usharen, though?
I love him. I love the model. I love the flavor. I actually think he's dope. My only beef with him is that they put him in Hollowmorn and he doesn't get anything from Hollowmorn. Like, I get why, because of flavor reasons. Just, he's the High King. He's the king of all of them. It doesn't even actually make sense that he's in one of the factions. I don't care about flavor. I wish he had at least one more attack on his scepter. Other than that, I mean, I'm going to run him in every game probably until people get tired of him and tell me to please stop. They want to see something else. I love him so much. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Chef's kiss.
He's a great beat stick. He can give strike blast to stuff, which is really cool. He's like buffing all of your stuff. His spell is cool, and I think it's actually good sometimes.
Yep.
But yeah,
I agree. Oh, by the way, his spell with the spell portal is actually not a bad idea. You could do it from outside of Unbind range and laugh.
Very true. Yeah. No, wait, no. You can.
18 plus 18 is 36.
I know, but I'm saying when you cast a spell through a spell portal, you can unbind it as if it's being cast from the exit of the spell portal.
Oh, did that change or something?
Maybe it changed, but that's definitely how it is now.
Regardless, like a 36-inch range on that spell makes it kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Beefy Crunch says, since 2 will be in book 4, but the FEC book isn't legal until full drop, maybe end of January, what do you think he comes out with? I think he's in an Army of Renown, so an Army of Renown box. Remember, his Army of Renown will only be old book models with him unless other new models are in the Army of Renown box.
Beefy Crunch, I could kiss you. That is such an awesome idea. Do we think he's gonna get a box?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh! But you know what?
I could see him being included only with old models. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe not. Maybe he comes. He's just like another box just for him with new models.
Yeah, like
Probably
maybe
not.
him and some Morbeg Knights and like a unit of Crypt Guard or something.
Yeah.
Like the Whoa, Beefy Crunch. That is like a sick idea though. The Army of Renown. What would he would be like in a no, he wouldn't be in a maybe he's in like a Morbeg Knights Army of Renown. No, that would be weird. Cuz all no, actually, you know what?
Morbeg-
Not
Yeah, no, they're Hollermorn, aren't they?
no.
They get buffed by that, I thought.
Well, they do get buffed by it, but like I can't imagine like what would it
I feel
be?
like if they did that, then like they would just immediately sell out for everything. Like,
yeah.
or I guess there's more Morbeg Knights coming in the army box too, though.
They
So
are coming. Yeah.
I kind of doubt that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe some of the old models that are getting the knight keyword, he'll have an army renown with those or something.
Like
I could see that.
flares and and horrors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
No, we know. Thanks, Dale. He is locked. That was my main complaint actually. One of my main complaints is that so it will be like a Hollowmorn Army of Renown if such a thing is coming, but you know, yeah, I wish they hadn't locked him into one faction. But like, Beefy Crunch is so right. Like, what a brilliant kind of perhaps clairvoyant idea. Is what's coming. Yeah, it's a random army that fluffed for 6 weeks. Yeah, those knights aren't legal. Well, the knights are legal once the box set comes out, right? Oh no, they're not. I guess they're not. It's so stupid.
It actually depends on
Oh really?
the tournament, because like sometimes tournaments won't require the book to have a standalone release,
Oh, okay.
but most of them do. Just like I can only think of one in the past year that did allow that. Which was Sparkle Party Deathmatch allowed for the Cities of Sigmar book to be used, even though it was just the army box at the time. It didn't have a standalone release. But like the World Championships, for instance, like had a thing that specifically said this must have a standalone book release, which is why Cities of Sigmar wasn't at the World Championships at all. So.
Right. Interesting. Well, I don't know. I'm super. I'll be following along. Oh, Dale was saying. I mean, he will have an Army of Renown. He doubt he'll have an army around because he's locked to an army already. Is there no army that's locked to a sub faction? Doesn't Cryptborn have a sub faction? Isn't he like Hammers of Sigmar or something? And he has an army of renown. Belthanos does not. He does not have a sub faction. I'm trying to think what else got stuff. Yeah. Because they have to be a named character. Ugh. Oh, man.
I don't know.
Oh, I wonder if the Army of Renown will be Gormain, not Usharan. Because they're going to want to sell this monster kit on its own, right? I wonder
Probably, but didn't Trug come with...
He came with just two sets of trolls.
Yeah. But he was a big centerpiece, right?
That's true.
I guess not at the same level, though.
Actually, so's Belthanos. He's freaking gigantic.
Yeah.
He's on like a night base or something. I don't know, man. I love Beefy Crunch, though. Like, what you made me really happy, man, regardless of what, like, maybe we have something fun to look forward to. Maybe that explains some of the keyword bingo in this book a little bit more, if there's some kind of Army of Renown in there. Yeah. Or maybe it's like the King's Guard Army of Renown, and even though Usharan doesn't come in the box, it comes with Gormain and a bunch of other crap. I don't know. Yeah, I honestly, like, that's what I was saying, right, Keith? Like, but does he have a sub faction in? I don't play Stormcast. Like, him and Lauka Vi will get. Oh, interesting. Ooh, Lauka Vi, that would be cool. And that sub faction actually really needs help. Anyway, we're kind of getting into the weeds. We've got a few more War Scrolls to go through. I love him. You love him.
Literally the rest of them, you mean?
Yeah, just No, technically we did the terrain piece. No, you're right.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist. Do you mind if I take this one?
Yeah, you can take it.
Cool. So 16 wounds,
Sure.
4 up save. Yes, I am. It's true. It's all true. 10 bravery. The 10-inch reach on his Death Shriek, I think it used to be 9. But it's the exact same. You start off with 6 plus whatever you roll on the dice. You subtract the bravery from it, and whenever you have left over, it does immortal wounds. 3 attacks on the Fanged Maw. 6s still do 6 flat mortal wounds. It's still 4 up to hit, which whatever. 3s to wound, -2 bravery, d6 damage. Skeletal Claws are the same. It's basically the same thing as it is in Soulblight Gravelords, only you have the Abhorrent Ghoul King on top. He only gets 4 attacks. I already talked about it. It's weird, and I don't know why they chose that. It is what it is. Still has 14-inch movement at full health. It still does D3 mortal wounds. Now it's only to enemy units, which is, thank goodness. And you can heal D3 wounds in your hero phase. Oh, and the spell is changed. Now it's the reroll your hit rolls on the Fanged Maw used to be a mount trait, and now it's a spell with a casting value of 6 and a range of 12 inches. But other than that, it's the same, and it is 450 points now. I have them all memorized, or most of the points memorized. Usharn, yeah, it was 460. We already said that, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, Keith. I hate 4 up to hit, man. There's so many times you can get rid of that. Also, by the way, if he's your general, you don't get +1 to hit, by the way. And he's probably going to be your general if he's in your army. So, sucks to suck. But moving right along. Royal Terrorgeist. Wait, what the? Is this the Abhorrent Ghoul King? Nope, this is just a Royal Terrorgeist by himself.
Regular Royal Terrorgeist, okay.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's the one on... Oh, I see. They put it like that. Okay, well, fair enough.
Do you want to do the Royal Terrorgeist first, or the...
The Royal Terrorgeist basically hasn't changed.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 wounds. It does...
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of any changes to it, other than maybe it's got +1 inch range to the Death Shriek. It might have 2 more wounds from when I think it has 2 more wounds than when the book came out in AOS 2, but I think it's had 14 wounds since Soulblight Gravelords. I could be wrong. So I'm glad they kept it. I think it's one of the funnest things in the army, Keith. It's just 6 flat 6 mortal wounds. You've only got 3 attacks, so you're getting it you're getting 50% of the time. For 315 points, it's more expensive now, and it's the same thing. So yeah. And we weren't even seeing these things before, so I don't think it's anything to write home about. But yeah, Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon, pretty much the same thing. It has a really fun spell now. This is the first thing, the major change is the Pestilential Breath, 12-inch range, D6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 3 flat damage. Don't forget you can give it an additional rend with a mount trait. 4 attacks on the Abhorrent Ghoul King still. It's the same kind of thing, only -1 attack from the regular guys on foot. Snapping Maw, 3 attacks. This is a little bit more reliable because it is 4s to hit, 3s to wound, but it's -3 rend, 3 flat damage. So this is actually far more reliable than the Terrorgeist. And this whole unit, by the way, is 10 points cheaper. It's got all the other bells and whistles, but the spell is really... Oh, the 2 main things that you probably want to notice is the Draconic Terror. Cannot use Inspiring Presence when they're within 3 inches. That's really cool, and it goes really well with the Bravery Bomb. And then Monstrous Hunger is an awesome spell. 6 casting value 6, range of 18 inches. And then Friendly Flesh Eater Court's monsters, wholly within range, which is a huge range, by the way, they can run and charge. So that's really dope in a Gristlegore army. You're definitely taking this unit. You're probably making this your general in a Gristlegore army. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Warned my opponent about the 6 mortal wounds. I am pretty lucky. I warned Andy, for example, because Andy's new to the game. But yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I guess, 6 mortal wounds. Like, especially if they're coming over from 40k, they're like, 6 mortal wounds? It's like, come see my warp lightning cannon, buddy. But yeah, it's they're both fun war scrolls. I think they're overpointed. This one's 450 points. I think I already said that, but yeah, 4-up save, dies to a fart. Moving right along. Would you like to? I've talked too much. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I am the Mortark of hype for a reason, by the way. So yeah.
Zombie Dragon. Is that one basically the same as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
Same.
so we can pretty much skip over that one as well, just to save time too. What's the next one after that? Is the Grand Justice Gourmet?
Cool. Yes, this guy's exciting.
This guy's super cool. Not only is he a cool model, but he's got cool abilities. So just going off of his wheel, he's got a 6-inch move, 4-up save, 6 wounds, not particularly amazing, 10 bravery, which is nice. He's got the Royal Blood ability, which means in your hero phase you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to him, which is pretty nice. His attacks profile is 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, -1 D3 damage. So, meh. It's not terrible, but it could swipe away, some.
It's better than like your average wizard.
Yeah, like it'll deal damage to something for sure. Then he has his ability Pronounce Judgment, and also for context, he is a aberrant as well.
Right. Good call.
So, Pronounce Judgment in your hero phase. Pick one of the following judgments to pronounce. The same unit cannot be affected by more than one judgment at the same time. So you have Petty Transgressions. Pick one enemy unit that is visible to this unit and roll a dice. On a 3+, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that target that until the end of the turn. So you're basically like picking something and everyone wants to swarm it and kill it, essentially.
And by the way, if you're not seeing a range on that, that's because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
None of these abilities have a range.
Just pick one. Yep. Super nice.
Can you see it? Yeah.
Then you have Dishonorable Conduct in battle. Pick one enemy unit that is visible to this unit and more than 3 inches away from all friendly units. Roll the dice on a 3+. Friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units can charge even if they ran earlier in the turn, as long as they finish the charge move within ½ inch of that enemy unit you picked. Also very good. Like, you can pretty easily just pick like the units, the enemy's like screen in the front or something like that. You could pick. Yeah, there's a ton of things.
And then even if you fly over it and hop the screen, you're okay.
Yep, there you go. And then not the last one. The third one is Grievous Insult to the Court. Pick one enemy unit that is visible to this unit and within 3 inches of a friendly aberrant. Roll a dice on a 3+, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that target that enemy unit at the end of the turn. A little bit more restrictive, but still, there's situations where you might want to use that for sure.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, you have Regicide. Pick one enemy unit that is visible to this unit and has slain a friendly aberrant. Roll a dice on a 3+ until the end of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of weapons used by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that target that unit. So that's like a very good revenge piece for sure.
You put your Gore Warden out there, right?
Yeah. If you just like suicide an aberrant into your opponent, you could be like,
yeah.
It's also thematic, which I like.
Totally.
Just like, he's killed our noble lord.
Exactly.
We must smite him.
Oh my gosh, I love this guy, and you can take he doesn't get anything out of Hollowmorn, so is there a downside to taking him outside of Hollowmorn?
I don't think so.
You're almost encouraged to you don't get the Morgan thing. Okay, well, he's a foot hero. He wouldn't benefit from Gristlegore anyway. So, and I guess he's an aberrant, so he wouldn't become a priest in Blisterskin, and he wouldn't get 1 noble D point for standing on objective. Whoop-de freaking do. This guy is awesome. He's 140 points, I want to say. 150?
He is. Warmain is 140 points.
140 points, okay.
And he's unique, so you can only bring 1, of course.
That's true, absolutely. That is the downside is I can't have multiple judges on the field. It's purely an aesthetic thing, though. I love this guy. Oh, by the way, Keith was hilarious earlier. He said, just to warn you, my Warp Lightning Cannon can self-detonate in my first turn. Yep. Or all 3 can, in my case.
It's like, eek, I have a gun and I'm not afraid to kill myself.
Yeah, exactly. I guess someone will die. Oh man, I love this guy. He's like one of my favorite sculpts they've made. Actually, this might be my favorite sculpt for any like foot hero. He's hilarious. I hope I can do him justice in my paint job. That's my only worry. Oh, if Rob was a ghoul gourmet. God dang it. Oh my god. Someone make my face into gourmet, and I swear to God, I would pay money for that. Oh man. Okay. I don't even know if I can concentrate after that, Ludivicus. That was hilarious. Gore Warden, another fantastic model. 7 wounds, 4 up save, 10 bravery, 12-inch movement all the time, 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. Same as everyone gets that's not on a Terrorgeist. He can cast 1 spell. He heals D3 wounds. He can basically take Crypt Flayers or Morbeg Knights and have them deep strike with him. There's no, like, you can't, there's no limit to that. So you could have 9 Flayers, 9 Morbeg Knights or something like that. But yeah, you can set up a maximum of 1 unit that can join him. At the end of the movement phase, you can set this unit up more than 9 inches from enemy units. If you do so, set up the other unit that has joined them wholly within 9. That's the only hard part, I guess, about bringing lots of guys. And 9 inches from all enemy units. And it's just kind of a utility piece. He's an aberrant, so he does become a priest in Blister Skin. A very mobile one, by the way. He also has a spell, which you can't cast if he's a priest, but it's really good. It's just casting value 6, range of 9. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit that can fly and is wholly within range and visible to the caster. Remove that unit that you picked up from the battlefield. Set them up more than 9 inches from all enemy units, wholly within 9 inches of each other. Neither unit can move in the following movement phase. So basically, he can kind of like teleport with a unit around. This will not be affected by the aberrant, because the aberrant archregent rather, because his spell specifically says only if it happens at the end of the movement phase, and this guy's thing happens in the hero phase. So it's clearly not meant to be working together. This game without using the saying "I am the keymaster." I hope not. I vehemently hope not. He's dope. He's 150 points. I'm almost positive.
150 points, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, which isn't a terrible price to pay at all for basically being able to deep strike any unit. And he's a wizard.
Yeah.
And moves super far.
And he kicks
and
ass.
Is an aberrant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he what, sorry?
He kicks ass. Like he's just, 5 attacks. Like, okay, I'm just, sorry. For context, I'm comparing him to a Soul Scryer, which has like 8 fish attacks, you know what I mean? And like 1 or 2 attacks in combat. Sure, he's a priest.
You want to know what I'm comparing him to?
But like the Soul Scryer was like 140 or 100. I think he was 150 points when he came out, and he didn't do any of these other cool things. Sorry, what were you comparing him to?
I compare him to a Ogre Glutton Champion.
God damn it.
It's exactly the same profile.
Well, actually, sir, your Ogre Glutton does not move 12 inches.
Correct.
Does not have a spell. Cannot be a priest. And I don't think he can take guys with him that maybe he can.
He takes 5 other guys with him, because it's the rest of his unit.
Screw you, man. He doesn't deep strike them in. Yeah, fair enough.
I know, it's apples to oranges for sure.
It is for sure.
But it's endlessly hilarious to me that's like the standard kind of slappy hero profile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, that's my battle line.
Someone said it earlier in the chat. It's like Stormcast Eternals Champion. Like everyone's got the same thing kind of this edition. 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 and 2 damage. And it's like, yeah, like your godly demigod, hero, this profile. Oh, your normal human hero, same profile. It's like, come on, guys. Like a little creativity would have been great, but whatever.
Yep.
Abhorrent Archregent.
So this guy is going to be 7 wounds, 6 up, 4 up save, 10 bravery. So basically just like 6 inches less movement than the one we just looked at.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's a double caster.
Yep.
And a double unbinder.
Yep.
Which is really good.
Very good.
He has the exact same attacks profile, of which is the same as a Ogre Glutton Champion.
Do we mention an Ogre Glutton Champion has the same attack profile?
Yeah, did we say that before? I just wanted to make sure we did. So Royal Blood he's got the same thing. He heals D3 wounds in your hero phase. Countless Servants, at the start of your hero phase, you can return up to 3 slain models to 1 friendly serfs unit that is within 18 inches of this unit, or you can return one slain model to one friendly knight's unit that's within 18 inches of this unit. So that's super nice, just because like you're effectively getting like two free noble deeds points potentially.
Exactly.
Without having to actually spend them. So.
Yep. And it's within, not wholly within. 18 inches is pretty far. And yeah. So.
And that doesn't bracket or anything at all. So pretty spicy. And then he has a spell called Carrion Call. Carrion Call is a spell that has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast in the following movement phase, friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units that are set up at the end of the movement phase can immediately move d6 inches. Mm-hmm. So this plays really well with the War School we just looked at before, where he can bring someone in with them.
Yep.
So basically, like you have your Gore Warden and like a unit of Knights or Flayers or something like that, that is like popping down with him, and then both of those can move d6 inches. And then if you have like 2 Gore Wardens or something, then all of a sudden you maybe have like 4 units that are doing that.
Yep.
And as we said before, this just says any units that are set up at the end of the movement phase. So if you're bringing back units from the edge of the board with your, I can't remember if it's Muster Guard or whatever the other ability is. Yeah. Then those units are going to be able to move d6 inches as well.
Yep.
So super good spell, board wide, no range whatsoever.
And is it the Zombie Dragon mount trait, or is it the command trait? On the
can't remember, but I know there's something else as well. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's kind of cool.
So yeah, that's pretty nice. Keith says the spell has no range, no target, and it's for every unit that qualifies WoW. Yeah, exactly. So this is something you can certainly build around. And the nice thing is that he doesn't really need to be near anyone in the first turn.
No.
And if you want to do this, you could literally put him in like the very far corner of the battlefield, or like as far away from your opponent as you want. Doesn't have to be anywhere near your models on the first turn. So he's like perfect magical dominance.
He is
starter piece.
Perfect magical dominance, absolutely. And it should be pointed out, there are several abilities that allow you to set up things like the thing we just looked at with the Gore Warden, and it doesn't apply to most other, like a lot of tips and tricks people are coming up with. So be very careful with these combos you're coming up with, because a lot of people are coming up with combos that won't work with this spell. It does work as we should just try and be specific again. It works with the Gore Warden's Deep Strike specifically, not with his spell. It works with something to do with the Zombie Dragon, and what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the Muster Guard thing ability. Yep. So like those 3 things. Yeah.
Yep.
It's cool though.
He is
150 points.
Also 150
yeah.
points.
Yeah. For a double caster, double unbinder, and
that's
a very great utilitarian spell, and bringing back a knight or 2 serfs for free, or 3 serfs or 1 knight for free. This guy is godlike. He's in every one of my lists that isn't like a Gristle Gore and is like weirdly. Actually, I think he's even in my Gristle Gore list. But
yeah, absolutely. Also, we might want to speed up just a little bit because I know we're starting to kind of run out of time. But oh my God, it's him.
Yes, we will. Let's speed it up. Abhorrent Ghoul King. Here, you do it. I'm charging up.
Sure. It's the exact same profile wheel that we just saw, except he has 1 less wound, so 6 wounds instead. Exact same melee profile. He's a single caster, heals D3 in your hero phase.
Right.
He has an ability called Code of Honor. At the start of your combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 1 inch of this unit and say that this unit will duel that enemy hero. If you do so, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons until the end of the phase. But it can only target that enemy hero.
It's fun. 3 damage is significant, but at -1 rend, it's like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess he's like kind of a hero killer, but he can't fly, so he can't easily get at those heroes, and he moves 6. So meh. Unnatural Speed is a spell that has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, this unit can immediately attempt to charge, and you can roll 3d6 for the charge roll. If the charge is successful, strike first effect applies to this unit in the following combat phase. Again, pretty solid meh. He doesn't really buff anybody else. He doesn't really hit hard enough or move fast enough to really warrant that sort of stuff.
It's true.
And he's 130 points, which is like...
It's
he'll
true.
die to a fart,
but hear me out. Hear me
Okay.
out. There's another combo. I know we have to hurry, but there's another combo that I came up with. Gore Warden, him. Gore Warden... Or no, actually, I guess this wouldn't... Well, it doesn't work with the Master of Magic thing, but Gore Warden casts his spell from outside of Unbind range. He teleports both of them up. Then he uses his spell to immediately 3d6 charge something. It gets around Unleash Hell, and he could also go into like a small foot hero, and like he will destroy like most small, somewhat delicate foot heroes, especially with his ability. And he's be fighting at the start of the combat phase, 3d6 charge from 9 inches. It's very reliable,
Yeah, I think the main reason you're probably taking this guy though is like, I can't quite fit one of the other abhorrents, or I can't fit another unit because he's 130 points as
130 points, so 20 points less than like some of these amazing units. Also, he's an abhorrent, so he can summon things. He's got 18 inches on his other abilities that, anyway.
Yeah. Next up, abhorrent cardinal.
Awesome model. Should be pointed out. 5 wounds, 4 up save, 6 inches, 10 bravery, of course. 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1, D3 damage. So basically like a spellcaster type, like a normal wizard type attack profile. Heals D3 wounds, same as everyone else. And he's a priest. Which is super good because the prayer lore in this game in this book is awesome. He also has a War Scroll prayer, answer value of 4, range, which isn't great, but range of 18 inches. Pick one enemy unit within range, visible to caster, chanter rather. Until your next hero phase, roll a dice each time that enemy unit receives a command on a 4-up. That command has no effect. So this could be good for getting around like redeploys and different things like that. It can make people, nervous about using it, especially if they're low on command points. But you're mostly probably going to be using the main spell prayer lore. But yeah, I think he's dope. He's 120 points exactly. It's very solid for that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, and he is an abhorrent as well. Just wanted to point that out. Anyway.
Very true. Next up is the Merrill Scroll Herald, right?
Yep, he came out in the new Army of Renown box.
Yep, that's true. So he 5 wounds, 5 up save, 10 bravery, 6-inch move. He's an Ogre Glutton champion in combat. The King's Entreaty is his ability. At the end of the charge phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit and say that you will offer an infected bone. If you do so, your opponent must choose whether they accept or refuse the bone. If they refuse, strike first applies to friendly flesh-eater quartz units within 3 inches of this unit until the end of the following combat phase. Or if they accept, that unit becomes infected for the rest of the battle. Roll 2d6 before an infected unit issues or receives a command, attempts to cast a spell, or chants a prayer. Make the roll before the action is carried out. If the roll is greater than that unit's bravery characteristic, that unit cannot perform that action in that phase. So this plays pretty well with a lot of like the bravery bomb stuff that you can do in this army.
Exactly.
But they could always just refuse.
Yeah, but like if they refuse, then the strike first effect applies to all Flesh Eater Quartz units within 3 inches of this unit. Within 3 inches, not wholly within. So, like, it works super well with the Bravery Bomb, but like, it's Sophie's choice. I think this guy's dope. He's also a courtier, so he can recur units. He works amazing with like a big pack of ghouls, which you can now take in packs of 60. He's sick.
Yeah, he also has one more ability, which is that he's not visible to enemy models while he is wholly within 6 inches of 5 or more other friendly Flesh Eater Quartz models.
Oh man, he's so good with that, dude.
Yeah, so he can't be targeted by like enemy spells effectively. Shooting certainly not. So
yeah, right?
Pretty good. He is really, really, really squishy. 5 wounds on a 5-up save.
Yes.
So like,
and a 6-up ward.
Yeah, you kind of hope your opponent refuses the
crit
bone
guard,
because,
anyone?
Like, yeah, that's true.
You know,
you're right.
I mean, I agree though. Ultimately, 5-up save is poopy. So, yeah.
Yeah. How many points is he again?
100 even, I think.
Merrill Scroll Herald. Yeah, he's 100 even. That's a steal.
By the way, shout out to Eric for, he got me into like when the book isn't officially out to writing lists by hand, and I've memorized like every point in this book almost. So, yeah, even the endless spells. And one of them I haven't even built because it's poopy. Royal Decapitator, I love this model, and at first glance, I thought he was bad. I believe he's also 100 points. 3 attacks, 4s again, 3s, -2, 3 damage. In the combat phase, if this unit has fought for the first time in that phase, you can pick one friendly serfs unit that has not yet fought, is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, and is wholly within 9 inches of this unit. It can fight immediately, so they can fight one after the other. He's got the axe of corn, so if he does any wounds, and then at the end of the combat phase, so he has to survive, and he's 5 wounds on a 5-up, right? So, on a 5-up, that hero is slain. It's really fun, right? It's really fun, and what it could do is it could stop people from making them go for the serfs unit, which you kind of want to protect, and it'll make him go for him instead. He is a courtier. He can do the recursion thing. I wasn't hot on this guy at all, even though I really like the model. I was like debating on whether to get one or not, but I've seen him in quite a few lists that people have been making on the Facebook group, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm missing some sauce at only 100 points, you know?
Yeah, I think the big thing is you can activation chain pretty well with this guy.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty familiar ability if you ever have seen like Slaves to Darkness or something, where basically he gets strike first. He picks another serfs unit. They effectively also get strike first because they immediately fight.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to pick your first activation for that phase after you've charged.
Right.
So you basically get 3 activations before your opponent even gets 1.
Right.
Assuming they don't have any strike first.
Where are you getting the strike first from, though?
In the combat phase after this unit is fought for the first time.
Well, where does...
I have no idea.
Okay.
My bad.
I like how you read that out. I was like, oh god, I'm about to eat.
Nope, that's my bad.
Okay.
My bad.
I was thinking like Usharin,
you can activation chain once. Still.
Cool. Right. Yes, for
nice.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. You know, again, it can make someone target something other than the unit that you don't want to go for. Yeah. Kill a Gargant.
And what's nice?
Ooh.
Yeah, kill a Gargant. You can certainly do that.
I think don't Gargants have an ability though that says like they can ignore the kill outright thing?
I think Broad does.
Oh really? I thought all Gargants did, and like Croak. Like there's a lot of ignoring that in the game. I know Marathi can't be killed automatically. That's a great call though. AoE mortals will definitely nuke him. That's a great call, Keith. Yeah, I always think about the Axe of Corn because the Axe of Corn has been around since AOS 1, and it's had like the exact same wording since then. Kragnos laugh at slain effects, right? That's what I thought. Yeah, but like, I mean, against let's say like Archon the Black, or I don't know, like a vampire lord on Zombie Dragon, right? Like -2 red and 3 flat damage. It's not unlikely that you get a wound through, even through a ward like that, right?
Yeah.
So
also, just to clarify, you are correct. Mega Gargant specifically, instead of being slain, they just take D6 mortal wounds.
Right. So, I mean, hey, it's something.
Still nice.
Yeah, it's still nice.
Not bad.
He's only 100 points. I actually think maybe 10 points cheaper or something like that, because the 5 wounds, 5-up saves make me very nervous. But yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I think this is gonna kind of fall into the category where it's like you have 100 points to spare,
right?
Might as well throw him in.
Right? Yeah, I agree. I think he's gonna be, I think you're gonna have to kind of build your army around him as well. Like if you don't have any serfs unit, you're straight up not taking him. Now you're always taking a serf unit for at least for a screen if you want to survive and whatnot. But anyway.
Yep, very true. Next up we have
Kripgast Courtier,
which is 6 wounds, 4 wounds, 5 up, or sorry, 6-inch move, 4 wounds on a 5-up save, 10 bravery, 5 attacks, 4s, 3s, rend 1 D3 damage, which is kind of nice. And then the one ability is in the combat phase after this unit is fought for the first time in that phase, you can pick one friendly serfs unit that is not yet fought. So exact same as we saw with the Decapitator, he can just kind of like activation chain with one serfs unit. And he is how many points?
100 points. Oh my god.
He's the exact same. I'd rather just take the Decapitator every time then.
Yes.
Instead of him.
Yeah, I don't get this at all.
So this is just bad.
This is just bad. I think I might know why they have him. It's because he comes with the box of regular ghouls, and he comes with like an extra one, so you can build him. But like, I think they're gonna get rid of those entirely. So I think they're just trying to like give people a reason not to take him. I guess if you're being cheap, or I don't even know, because you need to buy a whole nother box. But he is poopy, and yeah. The Courtier. Okay, this is where it gets kind of exciting. 10-inch move, 8 wounds. Okay, if you give him the +2 wounds, he goes to 10 wounds, and now he's no longer, hiding in the chaff. But 4-up save, 10 bravery. 10-inch move is pretty fast. He does not have fly. He's got. Actually, I'll explain the King's Champion first, so it gives context for his profile. At the start of the combat phase, you can say this unit will use this ability. If you do so, in that phase, you can add 2 attacks, 2 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons, plural, so both of them, but it can only target units that have a wound characteristic of 1 or 2 and do not have a mount. So his immense claws go from 5 to 7 attacks if they're attacking 1 or 2 wound models. 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Dagger-like claws go from 1 attack to 3 attacks, 3s and 2s, -2, 3 flat damage. It's pretty dope. He can't fly, but when this unit makes a move, it can pass terrain features in the same manner as a model that can fly, so not over models, but over terrain only. And victory feast at the end of the combat phase, so it has to survive. If any enemy models were slain by wounds caused by this unit's attacks in that phase, you can heal up to d6 wounds allocated to that unit. In addition, at the end of the combat phase, this unit can immediately retreat, which is really freaking cool. But again, it has to survive. I think this guy's exciting. He's 165 points, which annoys the bejeebers out of me. Just make him 160 points, and he would be... I literally have a list that has him in it, and it's 5 points over, and I wanted to shoot myself in the foot and rub salt into the wound with lemon juice on top. But the model is so freaking dope. I'm super glad and excited that he is in the new box.
Yeah. I like him a lot. So then next up we have the Crypt Infernal Courtier. He's 6 wounds on a 4-up save, 12-inch move, 10 bravery. He can fly. He has 1 shooting attack, which is Defeated Breath. 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, Rend 2, D3 damage. And then he has a melee weapon, Skewering Talons, 5 attacks, 4s, 3s, -1, 2 damage. Don't know why they decided to give him 4s to hit instead. The Mind Shattering Cacophony is his one ability. If any models are slain by the wounds caused by this unit's Defeated Breath, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Crypt Flares units while they are wholly within 9 inches of this unit. The same Crypt Flares unit cannot benefit from this ability more than once per phase. That's very good. As you were mentioning, you were kind of alluding to it earlier, but basically, like, he can decide to shoot at like a chaff unit or something, and then your Crypt Flares can like absolutely murder something else.
Exactly.
Which kind of makes that battle tactic actually possible.
Also, it is a bubble effect, and I forgot to mention that. So if you're deep striking, I specifically mentioned double reinforcing a unit of Crypt Flares, but this wouldn't apply if you're not planning on deep striking, but you probably are.
Yeah, and he is
145 points. Yeah. So
don't know why they're going with the 5 points again.
I hate it. I hate it so much, Carson. Crypt Hunter. I like this guy, by the way, and he's in most of my lists because you need a courtier or two. Crypt Hunter Courtier, 6 wounds, 4-up save, 10 bravery, 7-inch move, 2-inch reach, 5 attacks, 4s and 3s, -2, 3 flat damage. It's pretty hefty. I hate the 4s to hit, but whatever. In your hero phase, you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to this unit. Also, in the combat phase, after this unit has fought for the first time, you can pick Crypt Horrors, and they get to fight immediately if they're within 3 inches of him. It's pretty cool, Yeah. I think I'm definitely taking one in Hollowmorn if I'm taking Crypt Horrors, and I probably am doing both of those things if I'm taking Hollowmorn, and Hollowmorn seems like a really good sub-faction, so
yeah, absolutely.
Flares.
Next up, I think we're out of the leaders section, so now we're on Crypt Guard. This is going to be the new unit that's coming up in the army box. So each of these guys is going to have 1 wound. They're going to be on a 5-up save. They're going to be able to move 6 inches, 10 bravery. They have a champion. So they add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the melee weapon for that champion, but it can't issue commands to himself, his own unit, right?
They have a champion.
Is that a native thing to a champion, or does it?
Yeah, it's in the main thing. If you have a unit champion, you can issue. Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Standard bearer. 1 in every 10 models can be a standard bearer. If it fails a battle shock test, have the number of models that flee rounding down. Pretty nice.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah, a musician, add 1 to run and charge rolls if it includes any drummers. pretty nice. Most only get like one or the other, I think.
Wait. What are you looking at?
Oh, I'm looking at Crypt Guard.
You're looking at Crypt Guard. Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
my bad. Here, I can look at the.
Sorry, it's the flares. I'll just say it. I'm already on the thing.
Sure.
4 wounds, 5 up save, 10 bravery. They get 4 attacks each for a 10-inch range. 4s and 3s. -2. I couldn't remember that. I'm so glad it's -2. And then it goes up to 2 damage if a courtier, infernal courtier, landed a wound or whatever, or killed a model. I think it is. One model in this unit can be equipped infernal. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of the piercing talons. Add 1 to wound. That's what it was. It was wound. I was hoping it was attack or hit, but it is wound. Add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made with a death scream if the target has a bravery characteristic of 6 or less. It's pretty high. Also, it does again, go in with the Grim Garland. When you pick this unit to move, I love this as well. You can escort a model that has a wound characteristic of 7 or less and can't fly, right? That is wholly within 3 inches of this unit. Basically, you just pick up the hero and plunk them down within 3 inches of the Crypt Flare unit after they make their move. It's just like a really fun and flavorful way that they kind of escort them all over the battlefield. Probably going to use it on your Archregent. But yeah, that's them. They are 140 points? No, 60 points, right?
160 points.
God dang it. I keep forgetting.
Battle line.
That's right.
Battle line and blister skin.
In blister skin, right.
Yep.
The points, I didn't even realize the points are like up in the top right hand corner of this thing. It doesn't mean it's right, but yeah.
Right.
I've been talking to you this whole time about how I have them all memorized, and it's right there on my screen. Good job, Rob.
Grift Horrors.
Yep.
So these guys are 4 wounds each on a 5 up save. They move 7 inches, 10 bravery. They've got their club and septic talons, 2-inch reach, 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, no rend, and 2 damage. The champion just adds 1 to their attacks characteristic. They have Chosen of the King, which has improved the rend characteristic of this unit's melee weapons by 1, while it's wholly within 9 inches of any friendly courtiers, or 18 inches of any friendly aberrants. So most of the time they're going to be having that buff,
Right.
like almost always.
Yeah.
Noble Blood in your hero phase, you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to this unit. Warrior Elite, if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a club and septic talons is 6, that weapon has a damage characteristic of 3 instead of 2 for that attack.
Right.
The interesting thing is I wonder how that works with Hollowmore.
It doesn't. As it sits right now, because I was actually going to bring this up. In Hollowmorn, and as it's funny that Logan says flares are best in Hollowmorn, and I don't think they're as good as anyway. So in Hollowmorn, if you make a charge, you get +1 to your damage characteristic, right? But then here it changes the value from 2 to 3 on a 6. So it doesn't say +1. It changes it from 2 to 3, but it's already 3, so you don't get anything because this effect happens after. I think it needs an FAQ. I do not think this was intentional. I really don't think this is intentional.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But maybe that's why they're 130 points. I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of them, to be honest, because even though they're only 130 points, they've got 7-inch move, and 5 up save.
Yeah, they're pretty paper thin.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we'll see. It needs an FAQ. There's actually a few things that need an FAQ in this book. I haven't brought up all of them. We don't have time. More Big Knights. 12-inch move, 3 wounds, 4 up save, 10 bravery, 2 attacks at 2 inches, 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage, and then 2 inches on the mount, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Let's see. They can fly. Let's see. The champion adds 1 to the attack characteristic of the lance, as you would expect. Standard bearer. They count as 3 on objectives. If they made a charge move and they have the standard bearer, and then add 1 to run and charge rolls, so that would compound with the Grand Delusion. You can pick 1 unit within 1 inch of them and ignore Unleash Hell, which is amazing. Turn off Unleash Hell is super good. And then They also on a 4-up for each model that's within 1 inches, they suffer D3 mortal wounds, not 1. So that could be potentially pretty damaging. Also, that would go off before Unleash Hell if you double charge. So that's kind of interesting. Also, they can retreat and still charge. So they're interesting. They're, I believe, 100. Oh, no, it's right there. It's 150 points. Okay. I did look at the screen this time.
An important thing to note is that you do have to pick the unit that you made enable to Unleash Hell.
Exactly.
So you can't split that, unfortunately. So you can't say, like, you can't Unleash Hell and I'm dealing damage to you. It has to be focused on the same target.
It's true. And also, like, if you're double charging, like, you pick the one unit and then the other unit unleashes Hell. I mean, if there's a bigger unit, then obviously you pick the bigger unit, but, I don't know. I do like the run and charge, though. They're interesting.
That's pretty nice. It's also nice that these guys fly.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. And, yeah, they just seem like a cool unit.
Indeed. Would you care to do Royal Beast Flayers?
I feel like I'm out of sync on my...
Oh, no problem. So 6-inch move, 1 wound, 5-up save, 10 bravery. They really haven't changed that much. The Offal Hounds, 2 in every 10 models in this unit can be an Offal Hound. Wound characteristic of 2, and they fight with the fighting profile that's on there. And then there's the Royal Flame Master. 1 in every unit. He has a wound characteristic of 3, and he can issue commands to the own unit. Enemy monsters within 3 inches of this unit cannot carry out Monstrous Rampages. It doesn't say to this unit, by the way. It just says within 3 inches. And at 115 points, it's an interesting kind of flex against monsters. It can fill in a certain thing, and it is a serfs unit, by the way. So it would it would work with like the Royal Decapitator and stuff like that. Offal Hounds add 2 inches to the move characteristic of this unit if it is within 18 inches of any enemy monsters that have any wounds allocated to them. It's interesting. It takes them up to 8 inches. I don't know. They're okay. 115 points. They're like one of the lowest pointed things in the book. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're at Crypt Guard.
Crypt Guard. Okay, 1 sec. Guard. There we go. Okay, so Crypt Guard, I was already kind of explaining these earlier, but they've got 1 wound, 5-up save, 6-inch move, 10 bravery. Their weapons are Cursed Weapon, range 2, 2 attacks each, 3s, -1, 1 damage. I believe these guys come in a unit size of 10, right?
Yep.
So they've got, it's nice that there's no choice, like you always just get 2-inch reach, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So you can fight in 2 ranks no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The champion just adds 1 to his attacks characteristic for the melee weapon. The standard bearer have the number of models that flee, rounding down whenever they take a battle shock test. Pretty nice. Musician, they add 1 to run and charge rolls. Also very nice. Armory of Madness, any wounds caused by this unit's attack that are allocated to an enemy unit, that enemy unit cannot issue or receive commands until the end of the turn. That's big.
That's huge.
That's really, really big.
Battle shock,
because
anyone?
If you can, yeah, exactly. If you can, it seems like honestly this is kind of like an anti-OBR army in some ways,
right?
Just because we've seen some stuff with the Charnel Throne, and not being able to issue or receive commands is pretty crazy. Especially because this guy's attack profile isn't it's not terrible.
Right.
You've got 20 attacks, and the 3s and 3s run 1/1 damage. Like something's gonna slip through, right?
Absolutely.
So it's pretty good. And then this unit has a ward of 5+, which is also really good. In addition, add 1 to ward rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Quartz heroes wholly within 3 inches of this unit. Fantastic ability. And for context, a unit of 10 of these guys is going to be 140 points, and they are battle line in Morgaunt.
They are.
So they're actually surprisingly tanky,
yeah,
I think. And there's a lot of tech that's going on with them, and they're not terrible as far as like how much damage they can do. They're also a really, really great target for Hoarfrost.
Yep.
Because they could be wounding on 2s, they could be or 1s, or hitting on 2s or 1s, and then worst case, you're Ren 2 or 3 as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty spicy. So, because like giving them more rend is going to be excellent for triggering that Armory of Madness ability.
Yep.
And I think that that's going to be a big thing.
Absolutely. Totally agree. They're in like every one of my lists, even if I'm not in Morgaunt. But yeah.
Yeah.
Crypt Ghouls, 2 attacks each, And don't forget, you can always have everything at +1 attack if you've got Feeding Frenzy going on. These guys are 1 wounds each, of course. 6 save, 10 bravery, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. No rend, 1 damage. And of course, add 1 to the attack's characteristic if the champion is there. Boundless ferocity. If the unmodified hit roll, basically it has the Night Haunt thing where it's 6's auto wound, and that if they have 20 or more models, you get that on 5s, which is actually pretty lit on that many attacks. It's really good. Improve the rank characteristic by 1 if they're wholly within 9 inches of a courtier or 18 inches of an aberrant. Excuse me. I think these guys are really good, and I want to get up to at least 1 pack of 60 in some lists and just throw them forward with maybe Hoarfrost on them, maybe not. I don't know. It will work no matter what. Yeah.
It definitely seems fun. 20 of them for 160 points seems really good, especially with the recursion that's in the army now.
Exactly.
One thing I want to bring up to Keith said in the chat.
Yep.
He said these goobers shut off inspiring presence if they do any damage. It's an important thing to note. That's not for these guys, but for the previous ones that we covered, the
Crypt Guard.
Mm-hmm. They shut off command abilities until the end of the turn, not just for that phase.
Yeah.
So
it's inspiring presence is really what you're looking for there.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
if
exactly.
you're worried about the attack back, then they also can't all out attack or something like that.
Yeah.
Alex did bring up the idea that the Crypt Guard can give multiple pluses to a word save. I don't think this is going to survive an FAQ. In my wildest dreams, there's no way that you can have 3 units surrounding 1 hero and have them on like a 3 or a 2 up ward. I cannot imagine this ever surviving that. If it did, then obviously there's some kind of delusion going on at GW. But I guess for now, it should be pointed out that technically that's what it says. It just says +1. But
technically you could do something like have them surround Usharan.
Yeah.
In which even if Usharan's base is greater than 3 inches wide, then they could still wrap like half of his base or something.
Exactly.
And then another unit could wrap the other half of his base. Boom.
Yeah.
There's your 3-up ward Usharan. Have fun.
Yeah.
So it's
good luck with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've just got the endless spells left. Cadaverous Barricade. I love this one. 20 points. Range of 24 inches. Casting value of 5. If successfully cast, set up this endless spell within range, visible to caster, more than 1 inch from all models, terrain features, blah, 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 blah. Only Flesh Eater Course Wizards can attempt to summon this endless spell. After it is set up, the endless spell is treated as a terrain feature that has the Grasping Hands scenery rule, except that it has to still be dispelled as if it were an endless spell. Enemy units that are within 3 inches of this terrain feature cannot run or retreat. In addition, if any enemy model starts its movement within 3 inches of this terrain feature, half the distance that model can move that makes that move. So this thing is really, really great. And I used it in my game. The downside and the reason that we kind of figured out why this thing is only 20 points, it's because its casting value is 5. And you're like, but Rob, you can get it off easier. Well, guess what? So can they. They unbind it with even if they my opponent didn't even have a heroic, he didn't even have a wizard, and he's just like, heroic action. Oh look, I got it. That was easy. He got it every time. I just stopped summoning the damn thing. But it's really cool and it looks dope and I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
It pretty much didn't change, Keith. I don't think it changed at all. I can't even tell what the difference is. And it was 20 points before as well, I think. So, yeah.
Yep. Next up we have Chalice of Usharan.
Yep.
So it's got a summoning value, or casting value of 6, range of 24 inches, set up wholly within range. So the set up wholly within 24 inches is pretty big. And visible to the caster more than 1 inch from all models, other endless spells and invocations. Only Flesh Eater Courts can attempt to summon this spell. It can also move up to 8 inches and can fly. And its ability is Soul Stealer, which is keep track of the number of models that are slain within 12 inches of this endless spell each turn. At the end of each turn, Roll dice for each model that was slain within 12 inches of this endless spell. During that turn, for each 4+, the commanding player can heal 1 wound allocated to 1 Flesh Eater Quartz model within 12 inches of this endless spell, or return 1 slain model to 1 Flesh Eater Quartz unit that has a wounds characteristic of 1 that is wholly within 12 inches of the spell. So I think the wholly within is a little bit tough, but it's still pretty solid. Like, it's just introducing more recursion into this army.
Yep.
Especially if you're running like lots of groups of 10 Crypt Guard, for instance.
Right.
This is very good. Because you're just like returning a whole bunch to like each of those units if they're taking a little bit of damage each. And this spell is 50 points, which is a little high, I think. But
I'm not sure. I'm going back and forth in this, and because you just have to die within 12 inches of it. So like, it's kind of, that's taken up pretty fast, and it's friendly and enemies. So you could like basically throw in a unit of serfs, have them die, and heal up your Terrorgeist. You know? Like,
that's true.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think you're right, but I'm just trying to be conservative. It's definitely worth 40 points. It's definitely worth 40 points to me. I think 50 points I think it might be too high, but I'm not sure. We might as well not even look at if we're saying that, we might as well not even look at the Corpse Mare Stampede, but I'm legally obligated for some reason.
Sure.
60 points, endless spell, casting value of 7, range of 3d6. Like, oh god, that's random. Best case scenario, 18 inches, but probably somewhere around 10-ish. Set this up wholly within range, visible to the caster, more than 1 inch from all models, other endless spells, This endless spell is a predatory endless spell. It can move up to 12 inches and can fly. After this endless spell has moved, roll 6 dice. It's only 6. For any models it passes across. For each roll that is greater than the wounds characteristic, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. For each 6, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound regardless of the wound characteristic. So do you get 2 mortal wounds on 6s if it's over or not? No, right?
It's just saying that is an exception.
Yeah.
So like if you roll a 6 is always a success.
It's
Basically.
60 points.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I read it too, and I'm just going like, on what planet?
Yeah, it's really not good.
No. Like, it's doing fairly reliable mortal wounds to things that have like a 1 or 2 wounds characteristic, but you can roll 1s. It's more than. It moves 12 inches, I guess. I don't know. I haven't even built this spell. Yeah. I'm just like, nope, I'm not taking it. I'm taking
it seems overcosted for sure.
Yeah.
I think if it were like 40 or 50 points, I might consider it. Just because if you think like 12 inches is 6 inches forward and back from the front of a unit.
Right.
Right? If you set it up like, I think the 3d6,
that's the worst part.
Is kind of what makes it the worst. Yeah.
You might have to do it within 3 inches.
Yeah. If it was like a 12-inch casting, or like even take the average and say like 10 or 11-inch range,
sure,
I'd be pretty happy with that. Still not
at 60 points. Yeah,
not good.
I'll build it if it comes down to like 30 points.
Yeah. Even then
Exactly.
Even then.
Yeah. And that's everything. It's just the points left. We've said the points as we've gone along here.
It kind of neatly ties everything up right on time.
It does.
Overall thoughts of the book? Now that we've gone through it all?
I mean, it's, I went through this. I've been just doing nothing but kind of reading and enjoying this book. I can't wait for the lore. I want to know more about Flesh Eater Quartz lore. It's cool. It's a toolbox army. I think currently, I think it's like a mid-tier army, a toolbox mid-tier army. It might be similar to Ogres, where someone like yourself will like kind of discover like a secret sauce in there. Maybe me. Probably not, because I don't go to tournaments, so no one will even know about it if I did. But but it's a toolbox army. I'm pretty darn sure it's not going to be like a top placing army of any kind, because I think it's not going to be easy to play. There's going to be a lot to remember, and the fun things are the fun and easy things are not the best things for sure. Those are the only things that I can kind of say solidly. But I love it, and I'm super excited, and I'm super glad that it's not OP, because those armies inevitably always get nerfed into the ground and they become a shadow of their former selves. So, yeah. Does it fit wholly within if you roll a 3d6 and it's a 3? Probably.
Not.
What?
Nope.
But what if you put it sideways?
Nope, because the Corpse Mirror Stampede base is 120 by 92 millimeters. 92 millimeters is 3.6 inches. So not only do you need to roll a 3, you actually need to roll a 5 for it to actually fit. And that's assuming there is nothing else close to your hero. So if you roll a 5 or if you roll a 4 or less, guaranteed it's not possible. Yeah, that's really good that I realized it.
Whoever wrote this is deluded and insane. Yeah, madness, yeah. Keith just said. Well, on that note...
God.
God dang it. Oh, okay. Well...
So it's like, congratulations, sir. You've casted your spell, and now let's see what happens. Oh, we can't place it.
Oh, sorry.
Sucks.
Sucks to suck.
Whoops.
God dang. This stream is over. Okay. Well, what do you think? What are your overall thoughts?
I largely feel the same way. I think this is going to sit at like a solid B tier.
Right.
I think that there's going to be some people that are going to do really well with it just because they're really good players.
Right.
But I think that this is going to be hard to play correctly because it is very much so a glass cannon army.
Right.
I don't think I saw any 3-up saves except the Terrorgeist and no, those are 4-up saves too, right?
Everything's a 4-up save. I don't think there's any 3-up save in the book.
There's not a single 3-up save.
Yeah.
So it's going to be rough.
It's gonna be hard to pilot. It's gonna take someone like to take it to tournament and do well. It's gonna take someone who's really good player, to be honest. And Alex just said something important. Who knows how strong it is when it needs so many FAQs? Like we didn't have time to bring up most of the FAQs that are needed in there. I brought up the Hollowmorn with the Crypt Horrors, and that's it. There's actually a lot of stuff that needs FAQs in here. So that's another good point. I'm even if all the FAQs go FEC way, I still don't think it's anywhere near the top. I think at best like a B+, but yeah.
I also think that going into a meta, which I feel like Cities is going to be showing up a lot, and Cities is going to dumpster this army.
Yep, I agree. I sure do.
Which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. I also think that Void Den is probably going to be tough into this. Or no, maybe not.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be really strong against. It's got the movement to get where they are and 24-inch range shooting. That's assuming. I actually think that's going to get FAQ'd in January, but we'll see.
What is?
I think the Fuithen exploding 6s on the Sharks is going to get FAQ'd to only include the bites, that's my prediction. I don't know.
Wasn't it FAQ'd away from that though? I thought it was originally just the bites, and then they made it both or something.
No, they originally yes, it was just the bites, but it was only within its own unit. Now they just always get exploding 6s, so that's already a huge improvement. Yeah, we'll see though. I hope I'm wrong because I actually don't think it's OP at all. But
yeah,
yeah. But this army is awesome, and I can't wait because it has so much flavor, and I'm super happy about it. So yeah. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks always to my co-host Carson and everyone there was so many funny comments, and we're over time as it is. I literally have to run out of the room screaming in just a moment. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Yeah, thanks. Bye.